talk about anyway without the
Yeah.
keycards.
Upcoming. Did it actually work? Oh. Yep. We're loading.
We're
Okay.
live?
Look at that. We're live.
Woo!
Okay. Let us know,
Live, baby.
people, on audio. I tried to change a bunch of things. Sometimes it sounds really good. Sometimes it sounds like it's crackling or something. So just let me know. Let me listen in on the stream real quick. 1 second. That is crackling.
Yeah, I do hear a bit of a crackle.
Oh, God. That is
Arcanic crackle.
Arcanic crackle. What can I do? I'm gonna start unplugging some of that stuff as we jump into the game. So casting might be a little late, but you guys can't listen to this in its current state. That's not cool. But it's Gucci. Someone says audio is good. Nah, there's no way. But check this out. Check this out in the meantime. This was the top 8. I believe it was like 60 something people, right?
7 rounds?
7 rounds. I'm pretty dead personally from casting so long yesterday. I bubbled at 11th, so obviously my mental is shot. Bubbled at 11th with Levia 5-2. It was the right record, but the losses weren't in the right spot because I can't control the game I lose to Blood Debt. I can't control it.
I saw
this
that
game,
happen.
It was round 2.
Rough.
Like I just can't control it. So
yep.
I'm pissed, but it is what it is. The top 8 is way more interesting than yesterday. Way more interesting.
Not just ice this time. We have more than one aggro deck. Can you believe it?
Yeah, look at that. And this is an aggro Lexi at the top, just to let people know. This is not an ice Lexi. Naive has been destroying, just beating. Oh, something's wrong with Dylan.
Yes, Dylan is on fire, not on some mix of fire and Icelander.
There we go. Let's fix this.
All right, nice. Firelander, if you will.
No, James versus Fino, they already conceded. Fino conceded to James because he said that the money is going to the same spot anyway. Like, they're just paying rent with it, right? So, anyway, that game, actually, we already know the winner. Oh, wait, Fino's on Dromai, not Oldhim.
Yes, Fino's on Dromai.
That also isn't accurate. So
Fino switched. Yesterday, he was on Dash and switched to Dromai for today. I managed to make top 8, so pretty good stuff.
Change that just for all the people trying to take a screenshot.
Aggro Lexi, nice. Yeah, definitely agree. I talked about it yesterday. I really wanted to see a Lexi on stream, and we're getting it today. I'm so excited.
All right, there we go. Dromai, Fino, makes sense now. He did concede to James. Makes sense, like, that game was probably going James this way anyway. But it is a way more interesting bracket than yesterday overall. And I almost made it to top 8 with Levia, but we already talked on that bit. So let's move on. Honestly, they might be playing already. Things are moving quick, so let's just jump into that while I try to sort out audio. Okay, good.
Can we get a preview up here?
Oh, yep. All right, so we didn't miss too much by the looks of it.
Yeah, they're still shuffling up, so we're getting in just in time.
Is this a day 2 top 8? No, this is a whole different event. This is a ProQuest. Oops, let me change.
Yeah, I think it was not 130 players, but it was still, decently big.
I can also change that.
Yep.
It wasn't 130.
It was 7
like,
rounds. It was over
like
60.
66.
Yeah.
We'll call it 66. Something like that, right? Let me unplug some of the audio stuff to try to fix this. 1 second.
So Dan has remembered to put his Phoenix Flame in his graveyard, so that's a really good start for him. I say that because there were some fights today that forgot their Phoenix Flame.
They're not going to hear us for this. I got to fix this. The gray one? There you go. All right, let's open voice meter again. This. And this. Test. Oh, shoot. I just closed it. All right. Engine starting. Come on. Okay, test. Hopefully that's not crackling. I don't know. It sounds a little better in my own headset, so.
Okay. Wait,
maybe.
I can't hear you anymore. Can you hear me?
In the headset? You can't hear me? Oh, yeah.
I can hear you in...
Wait, you can't hear me?
I can't hear you. Not from the headset.
All right, now.
Hello? Nope. Still can't.
No.
Can't hear you. Yeah. I can't hear me either. I can't hear you or me.
Oh,
in my own headset.
This is what we get for actually playing in the vent and then jumping into the stream here. So forgive us. We weren't streaming all day, right? Well, we actually played in this ProQuest.
Oh wait,
so.
we're back live? Oh, rather they can hear us now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, they can hear whoever's headset is working, which I guess is maybe just me.
So they can't hear me. Okay.
Oh no, I gotta still mix with this, unfortunately. Okay. All right, now? You hear anything?
That's right. Nope, can't hear you. Well, if they can't hear me, hey, I guess that's the main thing. It's fine if I don't hear you, but maybe chat is saying, like, is there a chance that chat can still hear me? Oh, no, they can hear us both. Okay, so I can hear you, but it's fine. We can fix that later. Yeah, now I can hear you. Sweet. Yes, I can. Perfect. Thank you. Someone said can't hear Ethan now.
Test. There we go. All right, test. Yep.
Cool.
There. Okay, so everything's falling apart, like literally everything. Okay.
Cool. So just to catch people up, Naib it was a high seed and chose to go second in this matchup. They did leak 3 damage to the Ember Blade from Dan, opting to keep their last card, which looks to be that 3 of a kind that they just played. So they're trying to go hard and fast here, okay, leaking some damage to keep that power card in their hand. And then they followed up with a Winter's Bite on their turn into that 3 of a kind, and let's see where this turn goes.
Is this still turn 1 then? Because the Tunic's at 1.
Yeah, so this is Naib's first turn. Naib's first turn. He chose to go second in this matchup.
You're right. Okay, let me dock that. So we are still turn 1.
Yep.
In the meantime, let me go hook them up with the Lavaliers real quick.
Sounds good. So this Bolt and Shot should have been coming in for 5. You normally give that +1 with Voltaire since it gets the go again automatically for its own effect.
Can you put this mid-chest real quick? Oh, yeah. So we can hear you.
And Ethan just trying to bank up the players.
Cool. Low tilling Ice Bane, giving it +1.
Chat, please let us know if the players are a little too loud and you can't hear the casters. And we'll see if we can fix
it's
that.
ducking right now.
It should be ducking? Oh, that's perfect.
If we don't say anything, right? If we shut up,
6.
They should get louder. I don't know. The settings are still a little finicky, but either way, they might hear a little bit of the table.
Right, so this is the second arrow Naib is firing this turn. The Bolt and Shot was blocked out by Dan, which is a very interesting decision since it doesn't actually present any disruption on its own. But maybe Dan felt like because of the Winter's Bite that he's already priced into blocking. So this Chilling Ice Vein is not fused, I believe. I didn't see any reveal from Naib's side. So it's just vanilla damage.
Moon Tower.
Yep. Okay,
and
so
Dan
exactly
just
that.
takes
See,
it.
so we didn't say anything, and you can pick them up. So
Perfect.
anyway, it should be working.
You
Cool.
technological wizard, you.
Dude, my brain is shot, but at least a lot of pre-work went into this to kind of salvage the current of mental state I'm in.
But honestly, same. Maybe going to the bout until that late last night was a bit of a mistake.
That's okay.
It was fun. It wasn't a mistake.
Yes,
yeah, we had fun, and that's what matters.
Okay.
All right, Dan coming in with a Soulbeat Strike. This is the only card in the hand. They still have the 1 in Arsenal, so this is 4 and on-hit go again. So they could play out the Arsenal if this hits.
+3.
Looks like Naib just selecting block 1, league 1, allowing Dan to have the go again. And let's see whether he actually makes use of the go again.
I'd be at 36 before this. Was I at 37?
I'd be at 35 now. You're at 36 before this.
Okay.
That's right.
Ooh, look at that. We can listen in on some life discrepancy chit-chat. Trying to figure out.
That's priority here.
Can we get the power thingies, says Michael. Do you mean the attack tokens? In that case, possibly yes. They were made by a friend of mine who 3D printed them. Doesn't have an actual store or anything, but they should. There's eventually some way to actually buy those, so we'll get to that later.
Does chat mean get them as in get the players to use them
or
obtain them?
Oh, were they not using them? I didn't notice.
The Soulbeat Strike didn't have the token. I'm not sure if that's what chat meant. We see another 3 of a kind come out from Naib. That's 2 back-to-back 3 of a kinds here.
can also try to use these.
Yeah, I think Chad meant the attack tokens on camera.
Oh, yes.
All right, so
okay.
Ethan just reminded them.
Okay.
All right, yes. I want to remind it, dude. I am actually brain rotted to all hell. Playing
yes,
Leviathan
no,
for
that's
7
fun,
rounds and bubbling out of top 8 has got me in the pits.
Sure.
And it's not the good kind, not the outsiders kind.
Anyway, swing Gogan.
It's the pits of
Yep.
despair.
So Naib also
Gogan
has the
used for
third
Celtic.
3 of a kind in Arsenal. Yeah, that's all 3 of a kind seen in the first 2 hands. So pretty strong start for them. We're probably going to see this Arsenal 3 of a kind probably come on next turn to not stack too many of them, because there is a limit to how many times you can load arrows into your Arsenal with Voltaire. So it's probably better to spread them out.
Yep. There is a limit on Voltaire, but it's all about weaving in those extra ways to get a third shot out of the turn, potentially fourth. If you start with an arrow in Arsenal, then when you Voltaire first arrow, second arrow, you can use that second Gogan to launch that arrow that was already preset in Arsenal. You can also get around that with like a reload from a Bolton shot. You can get around that
Sure.
with bullseye bracers to forcefully go in. In theory, Perch Grapplers has a
Take shot.
similar style of effect, but
+1.
you're not likely to see that actually activated. It's blocking in this matchup, right? So I would expect Nave to be chasing 3 wides pretty consistently, but a 4 wide would have to just kind of be luck of the draw more than actual setup.
And a 4 wide almost certainly will also make use of bullseye braces, like what you said. We might see this 3 of a kind be saved until they see their first rain raises, because rain raises with 3 of a kind, especially going with that 3 to 4 wide turn you were talking about, is just amazing value. 0 for 6, sometimes 0 for 8.
Pass priority.
And with a 6-card hand and a 3 of a kind setup in Arsenal, Naib might be able to just do that.
Well, something that he's been doing really consistently all day is actually fatiguing Oldhim. I think 2 of his games or something were against Guardian, and he truly fatigued them out. Someone noticed right here, there is a last-ditch effort in his pitch zone right from the last turn, and it's a strategy he truly has. He is throwing every arrow. If you give me 4 cards to block my 5 and 5, 4 cards, 5, 5, 4 cards, 5, 5, like over and over and over again, you're also blocking, or you're rather spending cards from your deck at an accelerated rate when Naib is only spending potentially two real arrows. Running out of arrows is a real deal, so he's trying to use his blue base to try to shore up what happens when you get into a fatigue state. So last-ditch effort has come in to kind of shore up that weakness, and it's worked. He's actually fatigued Oldhims to 0. Speaking of Oldhim, they have not changed the hero images, so let me go do that as well.
Speaking of that blue base that Ethan just brought up, I had a chat with Naib before this just because I was so intrigued with his Lexi build, and he told me that all the blues in his deck are block 3. He only has blue arrows. He doesn't run the blue non-attacks that only block 2, which is just such a revolutionary way to take this hero.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I have.
And is what really allows him
Or
to
go
fatigue
again.
the Oldhims.
Yeah, absolutely. But Naib's also, he's not a name that I think people know too well. I think he's more of like a regional name to the Northeast, but every time I see this guy traveling around to like the New Jersey events, he goes out to Columbus, it's all within that 4 or 5 hour drive range. He kills it. He won the I believe it was a 10K out in Columbus. It was on the Corsham. You know what? It was the Corsham Belittle Briar. This is
I'm
the
familiar
guy
with that list,
who played
somewhat.
a list very similar to what you were putting out there, Ethnic Smoke. Corsham Belittle Briar took down a 10K. Now, did that get really great coverage? I think it was streamed, but not. I don't remember it really leaving a huge impact on the community. So, but I hope people start to recognize this guy, Naib, absolute killer. I love playing against him. Super chill, super friendly, and he's always innovating. He's the one who generates these ideas of all right, I love Lexi. It fatigues my weakness. How do I fix it? He's going to try to find that answer. He did it with Corsham Belittle. I forget what the metagame was exactly that made that super relevant. You would speak to that better, honestly.
I forgot the meta then as well, but I was very excited to see a Corsham in a high list somewhere.
Someone else is asking, how does he fatiguing? Part of his strategy, he took, I believe, 71. He takes 71 cards into the Oldhim matchup. He's doing something truly with his entire board. It's with purpose. It's not just like I'm gonna run a stack and hope it gets there. He's purposely pitch stacking that entire game, and is going to beat just the state of ice react, earth react type of lockout phases. He's a very smart guy. He's playing around that eventual end state where Oldhim gets to preserve too many cards in deck and never actually get to 0. He can go beyond that and close out with last-ditch efforts. Specifically, I believe he's mentioned, to me, it happened twice today, where last-ditch into last-ditch actually came up.
So we see Dan opting to block a lot in these early turns. I wonder if he's just waiting for a turn where Naib doesn't get to 3 of a kind, like a weaker turn from Naib where he will then decide to pivot. Unless he's trying to go for a fatigue fire route, but I feel like that's a little...
That's
maybe
very
a bit too
hopeful.
out there.
I would say if a list could do it, it'd be something that Dan and the rest of the runaways would have concocted. We already saw like
reveal.
red soul beat strike coming in. That's an extra block 3 that's normally not making the cut all the time
Play
in
Winter
Fi.
Storm?
So if he's bringing that in, that kind of does speak to this flexibility of a board with more block 3s to begin with. I don't know. That might be core, honestly. Maybe or core to a deck that doesn't want to block, right? So not core, sorry. Sideboard into a deck that doesn't want to block, right? So that speaks to, yeah, his ability to probably block a little bit better, but it's never going to be perfect. He already chumped with a bunch of 2 blocks. We saw like belittles come out just for defense. So it's not like a 6D react, tons of 3 block type deck, but it might be a little bit weighted more towards defense in this kind of matchup specifically. Oh, there's an
+1
Art of War
damage.
though, so
Draw
that gets around any kind of deck that just has 2s and 3s in hand. You need a lot more
Yeah,
defense
let's
than that
throw.
to survive an Art of War
see.
turn backed up with 3 of a kinds. Everything crazy Lexi does.
We see an Endless Arrow banished to this Art of War. Very curious decision. Endless Arrow, very strong arrow, especially when your opponent's trying to block you out. That is one of the ways, one of the tools he also has for the fatigue matchups, because Endless Arrow is basically a weapon you kind of have to block, and if they don't block it, that's an
Load
infinite
filter.
weapon. Combined with the
Oh, yeah.
last-ditch efforts, that's how they get there.
Choose Endless Arrow.
Yep,
Go again.
pumping those up specifically is
5 go again.
probably a key piece to beating the fatigue matchups. I don't think you need exactly 3 endless arrows for this.
100%
You'll find
same.
an opportunity for one to leak in and reuse that one probably multiple times, because even if you get to reuse the one, that's a whole new decision point turn after turn of, well, this is that same hit effect. This one hits, you're stuck with that same decision next turn of letting it hit or not. So even looping just the one is the biggest deal. You don't need 3 exactly.
Definitely. I just want to point out what Naib has left in Arsenal here. That's a red Arctic Incarceration. Now, that's a card that Fi just has to be scared of. It makes the blocking decisions extremely difficult. Because if you don't block, then Naib's just going to say, all right, I'm going to play this and give you 3 Frostbites and nullify your turn anyway. But then if you do block, Naib just says, all right, I'll just leave this here.
Exactly.
And just have that threat.
That is the absolute key to playing that card.
What kind of
If they
ranges?
block, don't play it. If they block, play it. It's a punish no matter what. Just seeing that sucker there is so terrifying. It's one of the reasons Lavaya is actually so much worse right now, is because the Lexi decks, even if they're not too ice heavy, they're running the Arctic for just that mind games that they can push you with it. And Lavaya specifically is the kind of deck where, well, if you gave me 3 Frostbites and it was any kind of hand that just didn't line up with enough blues, then I probably just take Blood Debt and I just self-implode. So I definitely ran into that earlier, and I just fatigued out the Lexi, because you can't really play Blood Debt into that type of strategy. I did fatigue Lexi. It did work, but it wasn't Naive's Lexi, to be fair. Ooh,
And here we
a
see a Rain Razors come out on top of the Endless Arrow to force that on-hit through. And we see another
5,
Endless...
6, 7,
we see the Endless Arrow that came to hand being pitched here to load in this Heat Seeker, I believe, is the
Oh,
one?
yep. I pulled it up in the pop-up here, so we can actually read it.
Perfect.
It's one of the new cards from Dynasty. Very relevant for Lexi specifically. She loves almost anything you put in Arsenal, except for like last-ditch effort in this build in particular. But even if it's kind of a junky ice card, that's at least reveal for Frostbite. That's at least like probably built to be a 0 cost or maybe channel. And playing out of channel is fine anyway, right? So pretty much anything cycling through with Heat Seeker is a big win for Lexi.
The Arctic Incarceration.
Oh, and there he goes. This is interesting because there were heavy blocks out of Dan's side of the field here. So he's playing it out. It could be just for... Wait, does Heat Seeker care if there's nothing in Arsenal?
Oh, I think I know why he did it. No, I don't think it cares that there's nothing in Arsenal, but it's because Incarceration does not have Go Again.
Good
So
point,
if he
good
got an
point.
arrow into the Arsenal there from the Heat Seeker, he would be stuck because he would be forced to just play one card which doesn't have Go Again, and then he has all the tempo and he'll be stuck to just that one action. So very, very heads up play by Naib there. It really goes to show how much experience he has on this hero.
That's a great point. Thank you for saying that. A lot of these ice cards, you get used to like Winter's Bite. Those have Gogan Villain. Arctic doesn't. So that was exactly the play he's going for there. And rewarded because he did get that drill shot in. And this is what we talked about really early on. If you have that arrow, that's a 3-wide turn. If you're going to force it with Bullseye Bracers, that's a 4-wide turn. But it does come from having that arrow in Arsenal first. And drill shot. I don't know if you all have seen the game that Dan and I put out on the LSS YouTube channel, Azalea versus Fi. He is just terrified of drill shot. we played a couple practice games, and even in the game that we actually put up on the YouTube channel, drill shot was a 0-4-6.
Take 4.
Because
Yep.
if this hits aim counter or not, you put a -1 on a piece of equipment, right? So when you've got Phi, who's got these fresh 2 blocks in like the flame scale, mass Chico, whatever it is, if you -1, like on the flame scale, that is 2 life sapped because the second block is only worth 1, right? So 0 for 4 plus that -2. Insane value, because if Rain Razors also multiplies to be a 0 for 4, 0 for 6, those are crazy rates. Phi doesn't even get that. He has to push for like a Lava Burst to be a 0 for 6, right? Just a great card.
And that is yet another tool Naib has for those fatigue matchups we're talking about. If Oldhim wants to truly fatigue Lexi, they need to bring Rampart into the matchup. But if you manage to land a drill shot and put a -1 on that Rampart, that thing can never block, and by extension, pitching to Crown becomes incredibly inefficient as well.
That's a great point. Maybe I definitely haven't seen enough games post Dynasty, Lexi versus Oldhim. That might be the difference maker alone. Apart from just having a last ditch effort type of strategy, drill shot, exactly like you said, could be what just changes everything. There was even a time where Briars were running like expose the elements, right, to just put a -1 on Rampart to not get fatigued. This is now that kind of flexibility out of a Ranger deck. Very cool to see.
And I just want to point out Dan's shift in strategy here. This is the first turn that Naib hasn't started with a 3 of a kind or an Art of War. And here's a turn where Dan starts saying, all right, I'm going to take your damage. It's maybe expected it to not be that bad a turn, but it ended up being pretty bad. We saw 2 endless arrows and then finally a drill shot. But we see Dan trying to pivot here, and let's see if they can come up with a big enough turn. I do see an Art of War in their hand, and they also do have this Mask of Momentum, threatening an extra draw on an Art of War turn. So it'll be very interesting to see. This is a turn where his hand has not been pressured. He's going to it with no frostbites at all.
Full grip, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yep. The change in pressure, we haven't really seen Dan take the aggressive stance at all. This is going to be his first big push. I mean, Knives at 35, that speaks a lot to the openings Dan's tried to find, because normally if a 5 finds an opening, you're like 10 life down on that turn cycle.
I just want to make sure.
And so for the positions to be like this, 18 to 35, yeah, this is Dan's big push. Is it going to be enough to catch up? He can't really do anything forcefully because he took Mask of Momentum over Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. So it's really in Naib's court to say, all right, I'm accepting your mass draw is like about 3 damage. Because if he wants to interact with that and block the draw, he likely can. But there's no way Dan forces an extra 7, 8 damage out of his headpiece like Lynx would allow in this kind of matchup. So I'm interested if this kind of flip to aggression even lands well. I don't know how much damage, but an Art of War is a great way to start. We'll see what he draws here.
I'll save another action.
Not into another Art of War. So kind of starting to see that it's getting capped here. There's not even a combo finisher. It looks like he has hopefully a red snatch. It could be a blue. Can't quite tell. That's
And
at
the
least
blue
going to
Mendoza.
end the chain pretty decently, but it's not a huge damage push.
Very intelligent revealing by Dan there as well. It's a minor thing, but I do want to point it out. When he played the Billital, he revealed the blue attack from his hand, which he then banished to the Art of War. So just limiting the amount of information he's giving the Lexi player. You know, if you don't pay attention to that thing, you might reveal a different card and then banish a different attack to the Art of War.
Honestly, sorry, I zoned out for a second to reach out. There's some confusion over what happened with that drill shot. I believe I have the wrong pop-up. It might have been a drill shot blue is what people are noticing, because they're still not using those attack counters. But honestly, it's fine. Like, it's been a really long weekend, so whatever makes them more comfy to just play on camera at all, we'll just let them do.
Activate 5. Hang 3.
Ooh, Dan with a bit of a brick there. He is missing the Draconic Chain Starter, which can happen in, you know, especially when you have like Belittles in your list, which aren't Draconic. So he pitched the full blue Minnowism that he got from the Belittle just to get the
for 1
flame.
go again?
And now this is going to be the Draconic Starter, which comes in for 0. And very, very critically, it resets the Mask of Momentum count, because this is not considered a hit since it dealt. Oh, wait, there's an Art of War.
No, there was an Art of War, yeah.
Said, this does count as a hit because it comes in for 1. If it weren't for the Art of War, it wouldn't count as a hit.
Yeah, it really is all about making Naib make the choice. Let Mass draw potentially 3 damage per card, or give me 3 block from your hand. Because a card in Naib's hand, it's very hard to... I mean, Lexi hands are so adaptive. It's not like, yeah, I'll draw a hand and it's consistently like 5 damage arrows, like 10 damage out of my turn cycle. There's so many more choices to make on the Lexi side of what you're setting up in Arsenal, what like your hit effects are compared to what the damage is you can
No reactions.
push. So like sacking an arrow just to block 3 can really start to mess with how Lexi wants to use a larger hand because they can definitely use large
Wait for
hands.
3 go again.
Speaking of the mask momentum draw, look at how Knipe chose to block the belittle to prevent that draw, sacrificing his tunic here.
Yeah.
So this tells us he's really expecting his matchup to end within the next maybe 2 to 3 turns. He's saying, I don't think this tunic is going to be
Block it.
relevant again this game. I'm just going to sacrifice it here.
Wow, yeah, that is really
Thank you.
early. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is to prevent the mask. It is tough to throw a lot of equipment block as a Lexi player. When you sack New Horizons, it blows up your arsenal, right? So you really don't want to start doing that. It also takes away your ability to have the double arsenal as well. Perch Grapplers, a little bit inefficient if you threw it there. So this could be just a straight numbers game out of Naive. Like, he doesn't want to be 1 damage inefficient ever in how he's playing into the fight, because that's how things can get a little out of hand. Is if, like that last pivotal turn where a Phoenix Flame came in, if only had the 1 extra life to just say, I'll take it, but instead it demanded the card out of hand. That's when things start to fall apart for Lexi, because you can't really do much on 1-card hands. That did change a bit with Arctic Incarceration list. That's something you can do now if you're forced to like block down 3, but for the most part, if you block down that much, there's no proactive play you're making, right?
And here we see exactly what you talked about earlier, Ethan, the Snatch as the chain ender. Now, it's not as flashy as a giant lava burst or a giant salt wound, but Snatch is probably one of the best chain enders, especially in the middle of the game, where you're not threatening lethal off of it, but you're threatening +3, maybe 4 damage.
Okay.
Do we know, are we actually on turn 5? I might have
That's
forgotten to click it
This
at some
might
point.
be 6, I think.
Well, we'll call it 6.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I forgot to click it. Forgetting a lot of things.
It was a very strong turn for having to pitch a blue for a Phoenix Flame.
Oh, that's so funny. Wow, I wish we had this set up yesterday. What a great comment by Naive. You know, little salt in the wound there, but you know, Fi does run that card. He's willing to make his opponents feel that way. Yeah.
So now with this is a searing shot, I believe. So,
Yep. That.
Yep.
Yes. The -1, right?
Yeah,
if it hits
-1 life.
0.
So comes at f4, but if it hits, it basically deals 5. So 0 from 5, honestly,
No block.
very, very high rate if we're talking about just raw value.
Exactly. 0 for 5. Drill shot being maybe a 0 for 6. There really are these plays that are so high value out of Ranger if you just don't interact with them, right? But when you start to interact, that's when you can try to outvalue the Lexi's plays. But Lexi's the kind of hero that demands interaction. It's not just those vanilla hit effects. It's also ice reveals. It's also ice fusing at times in the game. Really great deck. I can't wait to see. Honestly, what comes out of this game. This is turn 7.
So we see Dan start with the Rise from the Ashes. I believe there's only the 1 Phoenix Flame in his graveyard.
Yes.
So he won't be able to activate
box,
5 this
20.
turn.
Gonna have a reaction here.
Graveyard, so Rise from the Ashes becomes a +3
Ottawa?
onto the next thing. And we see another Art of War come out from. Now this is amazing. He
Choosing
can banish
+1
the
banish
Phoenix
draw
Flame
again.
that he took back
It's a resolve
with the
banish.
Rise from the Ashes.
Banish draw.
So banishing a Phoenix Flame to your Art of War to draw 2 more, that's a trade I think anyone will take any day.
Credit
Just
damage.
get rid of this token draft chaff card and get 2 actual real cards.
Yep, I've seen this play come up actually against Tiger Katsu today. They Art of War to Crouching Tiger. I had to scratch my head for a second. Wait, that's like a token, but
Yep.
yeah, it is an attack. Yeah, go for it.
That's actually even better than banishing
It
a
is
flame.
better,
'Cause
it is
it-
better. You know, it actually is something. Well, actually, we'll talk about this later when there's some time for failure. The chain continues here. Art of War pushing value so far just +2 on the turn. Normally, if an Art of War played out in 5 is likely +4. In the extreme situations, 5, 6. I believe Dan's still sitting on 2 cards in hand, but the fact that he paid in for Searing on an Art of War turn, bit awkward actually, because that's not getting the buff, right?
Knive with a very intelligent block here, blocking the Ember Blade, stopping the Mask of Momentum hit trigger right here, because he knows that Dan would probably make the 3rd one, which actually threatened the Mask, a lot more awkward to block. Well, the Knife just goes in and blocks his place headlong anyway, but at least he doesn't need to cover it up.
Yeah, because that's the tricky part, right? Even though we're talking about that drill shot being really effective as a 0 for potentially 6, it's not a true 0 because he has to pay to load it, right? They're not running Redliner. You don't just get to toss this in Arsenal and shoot it. You can't just shoot arrows from hand regardless. So it's not a true 1-card hand type of value because you have to pay to get it in Arsenal from some kind of way. I guess Grey Forge Bracers is always going to enable that potentially at some point. But with the interaction that was demanded because of an Art of War on a Master and making that draw threaten potentially 4, Naib is saying, I'll slow down a little bit. I'm actually going to block down because if this mask ever goes through, that's the kind of value game I really start to lose.
Speaking of that Mask of Momentum, with Dan banishing that Phoenix Flame from his graveyard, he actually, for the rest of the game, until he gets another Phoenix Flame in there, he might find it a bit of a difficult time to actually threaten that mask in a way that forces a block from him, because that Phoenix Flame is usually very essential to get maybe the second or the third chain link on the mask. You know, if you're forced to block on the Phoenix Flame on the opposing side, that feels terrible. But that's no longer an option for Dan, because he took the
pass priority.
sort of, I guess, greedier line in the sense of the more initial benefit line by banishing a Phoenix Flame to this Art of War.
Now, we do know Dan is a huge fan of combo Fi. The Flame Scale Awakenings he considers one half of what makes Fi so broken. It's about that card not just being a 1 for 4 because you're pulling Phoenix, but whenever you have a multiplier like Art of War, it's a 1 for 6, right? Like, that's what starts to make things nuts. So he really does value that card. I can almost guarantee you he's running more counts than just that one Phoenix Flame.
I think I agree with you.
Thank you.
So we see a Bolton shot come out from Nahib, one of the strongest arrows in Lexi. This one's coming in for 5. It is a red one. Go again from his own effect. Now the on-head reload is not going to be possible here because Nahib already has an arrow in his arsenal. And Bolton shot does specify that the arsenal needs to be empty for you to do the reload effect.
Yeah, that's what's clunky about the 2 Ranger releases. We've seen a lot of the keywords out of Azalea with reload specifically don't have a lot of synergy out of Lexi. They play 2 very different headpieces for 2 very different playstyles of Ranger. Lexi wants that 1 card face up in Arsenal to keep that extra Arsenal slot open, cycling things in and out. But that means reload tends to not be super effective because, like you just said, it needs to be totally clear. But when the rate is good on these arrows, you do just put them in your deck. And Bolton Shot is one of the really good ones, right? Go again. Gets a go again just when you pump it. That's inherent synergy with Voltaire because you don't have to choose go again from the Voltaire itself.
So Naib ending without an arsenal here, which for Lexi can be a little problematic. It definitely
Go
hurts the potential of their turn very much. But Dan also went down to a 2-card hand, so he's likely also not going to be able to follow up with very much here.
Yep,
Although,
oh, go for it.
One good thing about ending with an arsenal, that actually leaves your New Horizon, it frees it up to block, because you're not going to lose your cards in arsenal.
That's a very good point. If Naiv's feeling the point where he needs to pivot a little bit to block something that would regain a lot of tempo for Dan, like a Snatch type hit effect, then he needs an equipment piece open to block. So New Horizon here, not having Arsenal, can become a lot easier decision to make. But he's saying no blocks on this, so he's going to... Wait, maybe I misheard that, but
I think I heard that.
yeah,
as well.
I believe he's gonna just play that lucky game that many players do against 5. It's like, all right, man, like let's get you to draw that blue minnowism, please. Like, please draw blue minnowism. By God, please, oh Lord, draw blue minnowism. And what's funny that even then, sometimes the +1 out of it does something funky for a turn. But it definitely is the worst draw you can have to put an Arsenal there.
Yep.
Although I do believe we've seen Dan
Nothing for me.
use Belittle twice this game and fish up both minnowisms. I don't think there's a shuffle, so
You got it.
I don't think Naib can rely on that, but there's still plenty of misses in Fi, even despite that. Like, just, you know, any one of the blue attacks, not exactly a miss, but still not what you want.
Actually, yeah, great point on that, because he had that double belittle Art of War turn. So he's definitely not running a 3rd count of Minnowism. That's pretty much never happening. You definitely run 3 belittles themselves, sometimes like 2 yellows. So you're right, the double Minnowism should be at the bottom. So Dan actually knows that himself. That's why he commits the Snapdragons there, because he can't really punt his draw like that. In fact, he drew the best case scenario almost, which was a snatch, another snatch. So that go again that Snapdragons enabled on the first snatch, but free damage and a free arsenal. That's the kind of Hail Mary play that Dan was looking for a position that honestly wasn't even super in need of a Hail Mary. Dan's actually done a really good job just biding his time in that early game and getting to this point where somehow life totals were totally equalized, even though we saw Naib play like 3 or 4 like 5-card hands almost, because Dan just said, hand's not good enough, I'm blocking with it.
I love this from Naib here. He goes Icequake into CNC for 9. This is some like Briar level stuff when you get CNC'd on a CMH turn. So this CNC threatening to blow up the arsenal and threatening a Frostbite.
Huge misplay. He should have pitched it. Poor Lexi. I don't know what's actually being called out there on the Lexi side. That Naib blocking around for this turn, really, really relevant. Like you just said, putting 9 damage on the board, that presents some kind of interaction out of Dan, because he can't just say take it anymore. He can throw an equipment piece. If that's all he does, then he's also going to lose Arsenal. So it has to be cards from hand if he really cares
No
about that
card, yeah.
Arsenal draw. But
No.
we don't really know if that's really valuable to him. It was a
Block 9.
random draw, right? But it looks like he does value
Price
sticking
break.
that card there.
Yep.
Gonna full block the 9, and this buys Naive room because a 2-card Phi hand is not 8 damage. It's 7 damage.
I
So-
believe that's an E-strike.
nice
Is it an E-strike and
Yep,
Arsenal?
it's an
Yep,
E-strike.
so that is still a 2-card 7 damage Phi hand.
Yep.
It can either
Yep.
be like a blue and a
Here,
3-cost
discard.
starter.
Sure.
Actually, you know what? The Phoenix Flame's gone, isn't it? So
Yes.
that kind of line doesn't work
It's only
anymore.
6.
It's only 6. So E-strike, one of his only ways to actually push 7 off 2. Otherwise, it'd have to be like a 0 for 3 into Blaze Headlongs or something.
And critically, in this match, as we're playing Ice, and the E-strike is where you can
I'll
actually
choose +2.
guarantee the 7, whereas the Chain Starter in blue just gets interrupted by a Frostbite. Minor off-topic tangent there.
Yeah, chat also remembering that play that Dan made earlier. There is no Phoenix Flame. It's not about misplays anymore, actually. It is just not a line Dan has. And you better know it. This guy is probably the best Phi in the world. In terms of consistency, the man's a fiend. He knows the deck incredibly well. Second at Nats, right? So those kind of minor misplays, even though he is fatigued out of his mind, are just super alien to him. Dan, very clean player. I think the only time he misplays is just because he's not drawing from enough of a like knowledge base, enough experience base in a matchup in particular. Because if he's played the game before, he will recall so many of those decision points into what the hero that he's facing round by round.
And in these endgame states, we're really going to see
one?
the armor from Phi come out. Now,
Yeah,
Mask
yes.
Momentum and Tiger Stripe should go
Like
both
5
see
out of 3?
break
Oh,
on
sorry,
it.
good,
So you
good.
typically only see them
Not
come out
today,
at the
yeah.
end game. But that's very relevant here because if Phi looks like they're at 8, but they're effectively at
Not bad,
12.
right?
And once Alexi is low enough, the on-hit for Mask Momentum doesn't matter because that basically just says on-hit, you die.
Absolutely. On hit die is a pretty good hit effect to have. I think we're all
Yeah.
chasing that reality. So as this turn plays out, Naib able to keep 4 cards.
Shot plus
He
1.
did it. This
5,
is
6,
another
7, 8.
searing
On hit,
shot.
give you
This is
frostbite,
actually,
and lose
it's
your
not a
life.
snatch level effect exactly because the, what should we call it? Now, you know what? Well, okay, no, here's what I'm trying to say. It's not a snatch level effect because the draw is not immediate, right? It is to set up that next turn. This is,
This is Searing Shot, I believe.
oh, I thought it was Heat Seeker. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Never
So,
mind. Forget
Heat
me.
Seeker in this position is actually pretty risky because he no longer has
No,
a New
Searing Shot.
Horizon.
It is Searing Shot. not
Yeah,
Heat
because he
Seeker.
no longer has New Horizon,
Very
which
nice.
means now his arsenal can't really be arrows anymore if he wants to have a go white turn.
see
It
this
needs
guy?
to be
Yep.
something with go again. So you can empty that arsenal slot and then load cards into Arsenal Voltaire. That second, once the New Horizon is gone, Lexi
Yep.
does need to change her game plan quite a bit.
You're absolutely right. Thank God you're here. Brain 10% operating capacity at the moment. You're absolutely right. Searing Shot. Now, this is presenting, once again, enough for lethal. Throwing in 1 equipment block would take you down to 1 life. It is, I believe, what can we math out? This is base for, or Icequake pushed it up to 3. So he did say plus
Remember
1 on
heroes
that
freedom one?
Voltaire there.
Yeah, burst.
There is no go again at this point. So
Yep.
if Dan really thinks going to 1 is worth it, one of the cool things about that is you really never fear the 1-card hand from Lexi. As long as you know you can take 3 cards from a Lexi's hand, that's all you need to still survive at 1 for a whole nother turn.
Definitely, very good point there. Although this Searing Shot does have, 2 on it here. There's a -1 life
Yep.
from its own effect and a Frostbite from the Icequake, and that could mess the Phi up if they haven't drawn enough blues. Although I do see a Belittle in Dan's hand, but if
Right.
he doesn't have the blue to play it as the start of the combat chain, then the Frostbite could really mess up his ability
Yeah,
to play
let's
this
actually take a
Belittle.
look. I forget if I set these cameras up today or not, so this may crash. All right, functional. All right, what do we spy here? That looks like a little lava burst, blaze headlong, mounting anger.
I
So
don't think there's a blue in there.
yeah, I don't think there's a blue. The mounting anger would be the blue if it is one. I don't think he runs those. So that's an all red hand. Yeah, that frostbite really does make things awkward here because he's not able to even pitch that 1 red. Start with the belittle, reveal, get the Minnowism, just go about your turn. Really big deal actually for that frostbite in particular here.
And that is a risk you take when you play Phi. I mean, when you play such a red line low to the ground deck, sometimes you just draw all reds. And against a deck like Lexi, against a deck like Icelander, you could that could just make you lose all the tempo.
Tempo, tempo, tempo. I think this is the first time we said it all day on broadcast. That's great. A lot of
Wow.
people overuse that word.
Uh,
Take the tempo. Not a card Dan runs, funny enough. He likes to rub salt in the wind, but he doesn't like to take the tempo. Who knew?
what are the other fab buzzwords? I think tempo's a very popular one, but there's some other buzzwords a lot of people's like use in fab a lot.
If you're asking me to use memory recall right now, I am going to decline. I don't think you understand the level of brain rot. You probably do understand it better than
Yeah.
most people, the amount of brain rot that's hitting me right now. Um, so we'll pass.
What
Someone
about
else in
down
the
here?
chat can chime in for that.
All right, so Dan making the discipline play here, recognizing that
Sounds good.
with this hand he cannot play
Thanks, Russell.
efficiently with the
Okay.
frostbite, so he's opting to just block out. He's saying, fine, have the tempo for a bit. You're a ranger. I'm gonna hope that you brick a little because you definitely can.
Ranger definitely can, but on the flip side of that, if Naib doesn't, this is the potential here. Card in Arsenal, new fresh 4. He still has bullseye bracers. There are opportunities for him to craft around a situation where this 4-card hand, it won't be a full 5, to be fair. He will have to interact on this one attack because it's presenting lethal. But there's still a situation here where he continuously takes away, as we're going to say, tempo from Dan for another couple turn cycles and gets Dan caught where there's just not enough block in Dan's hand to keep surviving the amount of damage that Knight throws at him and can start take away the game from those kind of positions. So
That's
it
a
really
very
comes
good
down
point.
to this hand. It needs to be this hand that pushes Dan down. If it's just to the point where Dan blocks with like 1 card and a mask and is able to keep 3, Naib will not win that kind of game. He will not.
Definitely agree. And this is the first time we've seen Naib Arsenal in the past couple of turns. It could have been because he was just expecting to need to block with the New Horizon, so he left it empty for a while. But I do want to point out his decision to Arsenal there, especially in this position where he doesn't have New Horizon. I'm expecting that to be a pretty powerful card, like something that can just make this whole turn a lot more powerful, something like a Rain Raises, maybe another Ice Quake to force those cards out of Dan.
You know what it's definitely not is a last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
You may need a last-ditch effort at this point, but the card's not ready. It's not fully cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he just glanced at it. My Ranger eyes are not keen enough.
Three.
I wasn't able to spy it, but there you go.
Pass.
That's the card that Dan demanded out of that attack. It's a headshot, actually. I don't know.
A blue one.
Was it a blue headshot?
Yep.
Okay. Red headshot can be quite a bit of damage, right? 1 for 6, right? It's when you are paying for Voltaire all off of 1 blue, if you lead with like a 0 cost, that 1 cost arrow, 1 for 5s tend to be the rate. Hey, sometimes that 1 for
Rain
6 is all the damage you need.
And that's a Rain Raises
It
in
is the
Arsenal.
rain.
We're gonna see Naib maybe like leak a lot of damage here because of the bullseye bracers, like what you said.
Voltaire.
He does have the option to choose go again twice
Yes.
from the Voltaire
Choose
and
go
then
again.
load the final arrow with the bullseye bracer.
6.
Look at
go
that.
again.
Okay, so he
on it.
chose
Bullseye.
go again, but that was a red pitch. So that go again is exactly for the bullseye, as you just called. It's saving the hand here because, actually, maybe not saving the hand. This is a choice Naib purposely made. He could have pitched the Heaven's Claws, kept the headshot for the blue instead. So I guess, yeah, what he's more prioritizing here is the +1 out of
How about
the.
6?
Well, no, because Voltaire would give a
There are
+1
10
as
cards
well,
first. Give you
actually.
3 frost.
Oh, so there you
Oh,
go. It
it's
just
not an
wasn't
arrow.
an arrow.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, never mind. So there we go. Just wasn't even an arrow. So
So a
this
bit
makes
of
a lot
that-
more sense.
A bit of value lost on that Rain Raises. I think Naib was really hoping for a better hand when he Arsenal at Rain Raises. Only coming with 1 arrow, basically just a 0 for +2. A lot weaker than what you want out of your Rain Raises
Yeah,
turn.
absolutely.
However, Dan with a bit of a break, these 3 Frostbites, we talked about it earlier, the red Arctic Castration into a deck like Fire. Looking at Dan's hand, he actually just doesn't have a legal game action.
Pass
He has
priority.
a CNC and
Nothing for
Mounting
me.
Anger.
It's actually really interesting about how that last turn played. Dan blocked around returning a 0 for 3 just because it demanded a card out of Naib's hand. There's a situation, though, where you block and set a belittle in Arsenal so that you can play through Frostbites more readily. I'm sure presenting lethal is just more important for that kind of thing, but at this point, he might
Choose go
actually
again.
be out of belittles. He's played 2
Let me go again.
reds, he blocked with another 2
Frostbite
earlier in the game, and then just
minus
blocked with
1
1 more.
on
That's a
anything.
full 5 count, so I don't know if he's running that 3rd yellow is kind of the toss-up card, but he might just be totally out. So if more Frostbites start to come through, there's less and less outs for Dan to pay through them.
Definitely. And those Frostbites also, it's different against Icelander, right? Because you start with the Belittle and then you're about to go fish for the blue for future disruption. But when you start your turn with 2 to 3 Frostbites because of Lexi, that Belittle becomes incredibly difficult to play because you need to pitch 2 cards sometimes to play out that belittle, and you still need to keep a
Is he
card in
gonna
hand
spread
to reveal
Sure.
to the belittle.
That's a fair point as well. Truly, just the amount of cards you need to keep in there, and the fact that he would have been saying, "Now here's your full grip. Just like go ahead and do your worst to me." Yeah, that's totally fair.
Definitely.
But speaking of doing your worst, we've got a 7 damage drill shot coming through. -1. I mean, at this point, Mask is probably going to get tossed in front of that. You don't want to just let that
Can we
value
get that
game
count?
start to happen in the
Yeah.
late game, where a drill shot just deals an extra -2. There's no way. There's no way.
Definitely.
So Mask likely getting tossed in here, depending
18
on
and 9.
how many cards he throws in hand to full block this. That could be another
fine.
route he goes down. This is coming in for 7. So if he wants to full block it out of hand, normally the 5, I mean, that's a 3-card block, right? 3, 2, 2, pretty easily done there. Actually, I guess I don't know if he said +1 or go again. They're not putting the attack tokens out.
Yeah, I missed that too. Critically though, if this mask does go in front of the drill shot, it completely takes away that part of the hit effect. But remember, this was preceded with an ice quake, so there is still going to give a frostbite. And let's see whether Dan's hand can actually let him play around that. Or he's just going to block it completely and say, I do not want
Could
to
be that
deal
as
with
well.
that frostbite.
Dan actually picked up his deck. He's starting to count through here because he might realize there's a potential for him to
About
just
7.
fatigue out Lexi.
Play Arctic
That
for
is
3
really
prospects.
wishful thinking, honestly. But he did the deck count. He just wants to make sure how many turns can I just say, okay, never mind, full block, never mind, because
It's a break.
we're not like truly through first cycle yet. I believe we might have missed a click here and there, but I believe we're at about turn 11. So that's 4 cards away from drawing into your pitch deck. It's a bit bungled up, right? Because Minnowism, belittle, all that shenanigans is going to make you shuffle here and there. But Dan didn't necessarily pitch that much this game. He's maybe pitched like 6 cards total, something like that. So yeah, he's definitely looking to have a pretty thin deck as the game goes on, and no real purposeful pitch stacks for a good majority of that.
And we see Dan just need to pass turn again because of the red Arctic incarceration to end the Lexi's turn. Very amazing disruption coming out from Naib here.
+1.
And critically,
go again,
it could
reload
be
on
that Dan's counting his deck because he's worried that he might be getting fatigued here. Look at
Also
that
that.
graveyard. It is so tall compared to that deck. He did notice that players at this caliber, he definitely noticed the last-ditch effort that was in pitch earlier in the game. And so he might be concerned that he's about to get fatigued.
Yeah, very, very real games we're approaching here, where Dan could just be out of things to do. Wouldn't that be amazing if every 5-player had games that went this long enough that they had to make decisions like that? I think 90% of the 5 players just, game's over by like turn 6.
No block there.
They don't even
This-
think about these.
This
But-
might be our longest top 8 game. Have the other top 8 games already finished?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
on the other side of the bracket, one of the top 4 matches has already started playing.
Who would have thought that the 5 match is the one that's going to take the longest in all the top 8?
To be fair, there was a concession in the top 8. 5 versus Dromai. The Dromai just didn't want to play it. I get it.
That's fair. So I wonder whether this drill shot was given go again, because I believe Naib still has 1 card remaining in hand. In which case we could see the bullseye braces being popped here if
Ooh.
this was given go again. But that is quite telegraphed. If Dan hears that this drill shot was given go again, he's going to be expecting a
block
third
right here.
arrow.
Sure, take 1.
Got it.
All right, so this is what you're talking about. Mass block is done with, so there's no longer a hit effect
okay,
attached to
bullseye
drill shot, but
braces.
a 0 for 4 rate
Load
still
heat seeker,
super relevant,
+1.
especially because of how freaking wide that a turn this late was able to be pushed. That is a 0 for 4, 0 for 4 into, well, actually, +1 on the boulder shot with Voltaire, actually. So this is 14 damage,
face?
rather,
Yes.
presented out of this hand with 3 hit effects. Like, in a way, 3 hit effects. Not all of them were super relevant, but that's just really impressive to come out of Ranger. I love the consistency of just interaction points again and again and again down a combat chain.
So this can actually be a very scary on-hit for Naib, because we talked about this earlier. He doesn't have the extra arsenal zone. So if the random card that gets put into the arsenal, if Dan lets it hit, which he doesn't,
Nope.
but there's a very real possibility that he's
I'm
stuck
gonna
with an
deck that one
arrow
more
there,
time.
and then he draws up 4 cards, but that's all he can do for the turn. He has no way to give that arrow go again.
Wow, yeah, that's very heads up. That might be something
16.
Dan just totally missed in that kind of spot. Because,
Uh,
it's pretty
I'll
easy
pass.
to let 2 life there through, in a way. You'd be able to, you're blocking with a 3. I believe at that point you'd still have a 2-card hand plus Arsenal. That's still quite a bit of damage you'd be able to turn back on the Lexi there. So he said, no, you know what? Like, I'm respecting this a bit too much.
Okay.
Like, there goes my hand to deny their hit effect, but great point. The
Chilling
hit
ice
effect
cream,
could have been a bit of a
choose
brick.
go
I don't know if it's an optional one, actually. Let's pull this
reveal
up.
Winter's Light.
We see the last-ditch effort come back around. It's back in the pitch zone now. We really might see that being played this game, and that would be wild. For now, there's this Chilling Ice Vein fused with a Winter's Bite, I believe. And I believe we've only seen one Rain Razor so far.
That sounds.
You know
no,
what? Memory
no, I think there were
recall, we're
two.
both maybe not quite at that state to be able to do that. But yeah, I
The Rain
think.
Razors.
There might have been
Oh,
two. Regardless, this is at
there
least
is a
not
Rain
the
Razor.
first one played,
Yes.
right? But it's also at that point where just threatening the +2 on Rain wasn't lethal yet. There's a bit of room to play around that. So Dan, very smartly, not in a position to have to overblock. That's really scary.
Critically, though, that
This card?
on hit makes Dan lose
Oh.
a card from his hand.
True. Oh my god.
And then the Winter's Bite takes a final card from Dan's hand.
Oh, but it's
so
not an attack.
it's
Any
not an
attack,
attack,
right?
yep.
Would have done it otherwise.
Yep.
Wow.
So back to tempo for that. But now this means that Dan needs to block everything. Those arrows are coming for four, demand two
That's
cards
good.
from Dan. So we might see Naib be able to close that out without reaching the last ditch effort.
Well, how many 0-for-4s do we think he has left? I truly don't think there's many more. There's like
Searings
maybe
and Boltons and
one searing shot, maybe one Bolton shot is
Mhm.
all that's left. But either way, that's enough for this phase of the game, right?
Yep.
Even cheating through like one more 0-for-4 that demands 2 cards, that's the biggest deal. So it's not about having like 5 of them
Pathing
left in
Helix
deck. It's
for a
you
go
just
again?
need that amount. Oh, Pathing Helix.
Yep,
Actually,
Pathing
this is a
Helix,
whole
another
other playset of them. Actually, I don't think we've seen yet.
So I think at least we did hear Naib say go again. Now, yeah, we talked about this. A lot of 2 blocks in the Fires list. I actually see 2 Minnowisms. Both Minnowisms being used to block it. They have come back around and they've Fires suddenly start drawing them. We are actually
+1.
seeing the
Headshot.
Fi get quite fatigued.
Twin
Oh,
5.
this headshot. We talked about this earlier. This is a big attack. Is it a blue or a red? Can you tell?
6.
Either way, 6 blocks. So whether it was a blue or a red, that was enough there.
Yep. So I wonder whether Naib will arsenal that card. That'll tell us whether that's an arrow or not. Looks like he didn't, so very heads up by him. He's
Wow.
recognizing that without the New Horizon, he can't arsenal arrows anymore.
Green deck.
Yep.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, very
Dan,
hand.
drawing 3.
Drawing
That's
3?
just game.
That's
I mean,
fatigued.
what's crazy?
This is fatigue.
Naib fatigued the Fi, and what's crazy is that there was no opportunity for Dan to fatigue Naib anyway, because last ditch effort is just baked into his deck as a blue. This is a lose-lose type of situation. You can't just keep blocking out like this. Naib will have more damage than you in that last hand.
Definitely, and also Naib just didn't let Dan have a turn for like the past 5 turns.
Again?
Look at that.
Look at
Wow,
that.
fantastic by Naib.
Beautiful.
You know, he was actually terrified of playing this matchup. He didn't want to.
Yeah,
He tells me, who am I playing? I tell him Fi. He goes, no, not like this. And I don't think he knew it was Dan yet, because there are 3 Fis in this top 8. Let's jump over into that top 8 graphic we've got. So check this out. I can go ahead and update this pretty soon once I take a lap here. But in the meantime, yeah, this is what the top 8 was looking at for anyone that jumped in a little bit later. We know that Naib won. We know that James won. So there's still a final Lexi in the bracket. Beyond that, I haven't actually checked. So let's go ahead and get that information so that we can keep on going with this top 8. Very exciting. Some big names. I see Brody being interviewed actually. So maybe he's already a finalist or something. The other games wrapped up really quickly. Package, entertain him for a second. I'll make the rounds.
Oh, I was going to entertain. Okay, I was going to
Or you can go get the info. I'll
You
run
tell
a
me.
giveaway.
Okay, yeah,
you
you
go
do
get
that.
the info. I'll run a giveaway. There we go. Teamwork. Someone asked in the chat, did we actually play today? Yeah, we both actually played in the ProQuest. Ethnic Smoke, playing Icelander, his little pet. You know, he's an amazing player. I think he went 2-2 drop. We'll confirm. But no, he didn't have a great run of it today. The great Balake, the almighty Balake, who was 7-0 with Briar yesterday, went 0-3 drop today. What is going on? Like today, complete reversal of yesterday. I was on Leviah today, did my darndest, ended up 5-2. I bubbled out of top 8. But whatever, like 5-2 is just the Leviah curse. If you can break X2 with Leviah, you had a lucky day. Like that's great for you. Like honestly, all power to you. But X2 is the Leviah curse. You take a blood debt loss, that's just guaranteed. It's in there somewhere. And you can't be good against every matchup. So you'll run into like a bad matchup. Like I lost to a Fi. That's fine. Whatever. But X2, that's still good enough for top 8. You just have to hope you took the losses in the right spot. In this situation, I totally did. That's okay. We can still celebrate a little bit with you all on another angle here because we've got a giveaway. And this one's pretty interesting. So SCGCon chimed in and they actually offered up. Check these out. Look at these sleeves. I don't know if you remember these from the like Vegas like world premiere or something. It might have been the Vegas world premiere. So they donated these to the stream to actually do a giveaway. So we're gonna do that right now. It'll be a keyword, so give me a second to set this up. But as we jump into top 4, actually, it's probably Naib again because the other top 4 matches playing.
Yeah, so
did
Naib
you
is
tell him?
staying there,
Okay,
and
good.
then Hayden is going to go join him as his next opponent.
Hayden's gonna go join him. Okay.
Yep, so we're
let's run
going
a
to see
giveaway
that
real
Lexi
quick.
Oldhim. Let's see whether Naib can
Lexi
fatigue this
versus
Oldhim again.
Oh, this
Yes.
will be exciting.
Yes.
Okay. The keyword is going to be
Fatigue.
Naib.
Oh, okay.
Oh no. Yeah, Naib. Keyword is Naib. Congrats to him. Remember the name. Type Naib. Sant 8218 is my Discord. So here we go. Type Naib like this. Naib. Now we'll enter you to the giveaway. Well done, my friend. Well done. Congrats, man. Really fun. Really fun. What's up? Oh, this one? Yeah, take a lap. It's all good. Oldhim was against Bravo. Oldhim beat Bravo. Yeah, it was James on 5 versus. No, so James won there. I don't know Brody versus 5 what happened. You can ask.
Brody lost.
Brody lost. Oh, so
Yep.
Brody lost top 8. There you go. Okay,
Yep.
I'll update that graphic in a second.
Yep.
All right, no. Switch back to the other screen.
Oh, I was going to fill this up, but all right.
No, we fill that out in Figma, not on OBS.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
He's the technological wizard here.
here we go. These are the sleeves open for y'all in this giveaway. Pretty sick. Look at this. Dracona Optimi. I don't know which world premiere these were tied to, but they are very hard to get these days. I don't know how much they are, but it's really cool. SCGCon was just like, hey, we've got extra sleeves. You want to give them away? I was like, yeah, cool. Can I keep one? And they said no. Like, oh, okay. But we can give them away. So type Naib. No, truly, they said I can't keep them. Like, wait, what? You're not paying me. Like, I can't even walk away with sleeves? Whatever. Type Naib. And keep spamming that in chat, whatever. Package, talk to him for a second. When I finish updating the graphic, we'll draw a winner. All right?
All right, sounds good.
They're going to see you on the screen while I fix the Figma.
They're going to see you too, right?
Yes, but I'm looking this way and distracted.
Yep. So huge shout out to SCGCon for giving us these Dracona optimized sleeves. I mean, they are filthy illusionist sleeves after all, so, you know, only so much there.
Come on, the dragon's not even real, bro. Chill. Dracona Optimi, fake news.
Yeah. It is, they do look very cool, though, I do have to admit.
Yeah, we are. What's up? Okay. Sorry. All these people trying to jump in on stream. I mean, we'll get you in a second, Yanji. Let me just update this graphic.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for this Lexi Oldhim matchup.
Oh, oops, it wasn't Fino.
Yes, it
It was
James on
All
5.
right, so 1 second. We're almost done with this. There we go. Naib did warn us. He said this is probably an 80-minute game.
Yeah, so
Well-
he went to the restroom to, like, take a chill pill. I mean, he did just have a grueling game against a fight. It's not every
He
day
did.
you fatigue a fight and then go into an Oldhim matchup.
Very true. But here's the thing. Everyone's going to be rooting for him. I'm going to let him know. We're going to jump. Here's what we're going to do. When he exits the bathroom right over there, I'm going to catch him. I'm going to drag him in front of the camera. And he's going to look at chat, and you got to wish him well. Juice up his mental energy so that he beats this Oldhim in top 4. Because this is the top 4. Let's take a look. We got Naib versus Hayden. This is the matchup we're about to get on camera. We got Dylan versus James. So on the other side of the bracket, guaranteed to be a Phi wrapping up that side. Right, Phi will end up in the finals. On our side, is it Lexi? Is it Oldhim? Either way, I think they're probably better off knowing that they're facing the Phi here over like the Dromai, over the Icelander. That's probably pretty exciting for them. Just how that bracket worked out. Both of them probably would have picked to see the Phi there. But Naib, I think he has already played this Oldhim matchup so many times today. He's got it down pat. He knows what's up. But maybe this is one of the Oldhims he beat. It's likely, right? Because Naib was the undefeated. So maybe that's what's giving him the nerves right now. Hayden now knows what's up in the matchup. Might play it a bit differently. That's always a bit scary, right?
That's a very big part of it as well. Even if they didn't face earlier, I'm sure Hayden has heard by this point that this Lexi fatigues Oldhims, and now he'd be more prepared for it. Maybe we see him bring his entire sideboard into the deck.
That's actually probably what it is, right? Because an Oldhim is probably thinking, oh, I'll run 60 and I'll be fine. But knowing they're getting fatigued by LBE. Whoa. They're really tearing this place down.
Mhm.
Okay, let's do the giveaway right here. Oops, that's the wrong sleeves. Giveaway for the Dracona Optimi. Everyone typed Naib in chat. Let's roll for a winner. The winner is Breno Meinig. Breno Meinig. Breno Meinig is the winner. All right, so here's the deal. Message me on Discord so we can handle the shipping. I can cover shipping anywhere in like Canada, US, that's fine. Anywhere else is like $30. If you want to pay that, I mean, at this point, it's like kind of worth it. Like these are worth paying like $30 shipping. If you want to like pay for this to be shipped international, sure, I'll cover it if it's in the US, or if you know somebody in the US, I can send it to them and you can organize with someone else. But congrats to Brino, you did win. I saw you type the surprise face, so you are here. Message me on Discord. If you don't have me on Discord, Twitter, all right.
They're
Let's
all
get
saying your
Naib in the
name.
chat real quick.
They're all cheering for you.
Here, sit down for 1 minute. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get Naib in the chair here. All right, everyone, wish him luck. He's about to go into an Oldhim matchup. So he expects it to be 80 minutes long. Naib, how do you feel after our last match?
Feeling alright. I generally don't like playing against Phi. I played the Oldhim round 1 today and managed to fatigue him. Let's see if we can do it again.
The same Oldhim?
Yeah.
You face him round 1? That's awesome.
Yep.
So do you expect this match to be different from your round 1 match?
I think he might adjust his strategy. Let's see. I'm also tired. I'm making misplays. Made a few misplays last round.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so given that, let's not keep you around here for too long. Go take a rest. Just take a look at chat. They're all cheering you on.
There's like one guy saying hate, right? But it's one guy.
Yeah, it's just one guy. Everyone else is cheering
What's he
you on.
saying?
The chat is cheering you on.
Look at this.
So,
Look at this. Look at all the
yep.
Look at all this. Look at all this.
Nice.
Check that
So,
out.
hope that gives you enough energy. Go get it out there.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet.
Good
See
luck.
ya, chat.
All right, get back here, Ethan.
Man, it's like a fish out of water without me. What's going on there, Package? All right.
Wait, about Naib and I were like just totally chilling here. He just had to go play a top 4 game
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
reason.
I get it. So I scrolled up in chat, so he saw everyone spamming the giveaway. Naib. I think that got him feeling pretty good. Good job, everybody. Okay, nothing against Hayden. I'm sure he's totally sick. I just care about the hero, right? Like Lexi right now, always super exciting to see. And Lexi has been doing well at some of these events. Took down that Battle Hardened recently in like Singapore or wherever it was. So the lists are capable of these wins. It's about the player's execution. These strategies matchup by matchup that have to be so adaptive, and that's what Naiv's doing. The word of the day yesterday was adaptability. I think that's what this Lexi deck is, right?
Speaking of those heroes, we saw 2 Oldhims in the finals yesterday, so it's just nice for variety. We see Lexi instead of an Oldhim today in the finals.
All right, in the meantime here, let me set up this camera.
Yep. Okay.
You gotta keep him entertained. If I'm busy,
Michael,
you gotta talk to him.
I was just gonna say we need to go fix those heroes, but all right, I can do that later. I'll do some
No,
entertainment.
no, go
Okay.
go do that. That's also important. Hayden was 5th. Hayden J 5th. Sorry. Type. 66 players. One more thing here. It is top 4 now. All right, buckle up. This is probably a long one. Like it really will be. But likely exciting no matter what, right? Let's mouse on over.
All right. Are you ready for this, Ethan?
I've won out all day.
This total slog.
I hope so.
Oh.
I hope so. I'll leave that.
Wow.
It's just a big question mark. I don't know if I'm ready.
My buddy and I have been
My body is ready. My mind is not.
Lost is the
Yep.
unlosable matchup.
So what do we expect to see from
I mean,
both
that's
sides?
what I
Now
feel like.
Hayden
My
is
hardest
prepared
matchup,
for this
aside
fatigue
from you,
strategy.
has been
So
the
Knife said
Five
he expects Hayden to maybe
Okay.
adjust his
This
strategy
game
a
has been
little.
going down to
How
one
much do you
health
think
or
that's
something
going to
ridiculous.
impact this? So I expect Alexi
Last
to,
game I was at
still
3,
do
so
some
I'm
sort
getting
of
better.
pitch stacking and get to that last
The
ditch
previous
effort.
2
Again,
fights
what can
were
Oldhim
down to
do to
1.
like combat that? Do you
Triple
expect
BY
another
club.
like
Yeah.
pitch stacking strategy from the Oldhim to combat it, or are they just gonna go all out aggro and don't let the Lexi get to the pitch stack?
So it's actually probably a question of playing more aggressive into this strategy. If the Lexi's pitch stacking, the way to disrupt that and kind of just force them to pitch more of just the sequence of their draws. The first game ends up being so much of their the sequence that they draw, like whatever blues they are, just make that be what they pitch. Don't give them the room to pitch reds instead. Don't give them the room to yes, I'm
my
gonna
buddy
get greedy
Michael was in
here,
the
pitch
finals.
like
They were literally turning off
red,
around them. So,
blue, red,
See if
that
you know,
happens to
2
the
arrows
base
next to
over
blue,
there.
whatever you want to do.
you mean?
That requires
Yeah.
a lot of
Oh,
breathing
do
room
they? Is this venue
because that
on
means
for
you
a
weren't
second
under a lot of
I
threat
think so.
and you got larger hands that you're allowed to play a bit more inefficiently. And actually, from your interview yesterday with the Battle Hardened winner, he mentioned, okay, yeah, pitch stacking is part of it. A lot of it's also just what was the sequence that I drew the blues. That's just that's gonna be the sequence of blues I just start playing for. It's just how it comes up, but as long as you're cognizant of how it did come up in that pitch stack. So I don't know out of the blue slot specifically how much more value than like last year's effort now you can really start pushing there. A lot of the blues end up being like we saw blue drill shot that's like a 0 for 2. Not too incredible. It's not like a rouse value in a blue slot, right? But it is something that he has to be. Naib has to be doing that. Whether the Oldhim's disruptive or not, he still has to worry of the Oldhim hard pivoting, just full fatigue. But Hayden, with room, will disrupt, will try to interrupt those late game pitch stacks that Naib's setting up.
And just to add on about Oldhim going aggressive, remember Naib's strategy to fatigue is to force the opponent to block. The way Naib gets cards out of the opponent's deck is by them blocking. And so maybe Hayden, with going into
So you
his,
undefeated.
what he knows now to be a fatigue
Nice.
matchup, tries to do the same to the Lexi.
Okay, not missing.
Go aggressive
I just
against
can't
them
do
and
that.
force them to block, and that's where you get cards out of their hand. If you keep swinging a whale, you're not going to get that many cards out of them.
Absolutely. Distracted here. Everything is really being torn down. The venue itself is disappearing. If you all remember, we're actually in the hall that Pro Tour 1 was at, same exact spot, and it's starting to turn really barren. It's a massive hall, and already all the vendors are packed up. It's really just the Flesh and Blood guys hanging around. Kind of crazy. Like, Magic has cleared out. We kind of own this space right now. But to be fair, they don't really want us to. Everyone wants to go home, and
Yep.
even Naib's scared because he knows this match is likely to go really long.
When you say own this space, we own maybe like 1/5 of it because that's just how many of us there are. A lot of people from the ProQuest have left if they, once they realize they didn't make top 8.
Oh, that's
Yep.
fair. ProQuest really cleared out.
Hmm.
Bit funky too. Most people, I mean, they were pretty aware of the fact that it was so big that that early loss was kind of the decider of, all right, if I took that loss round 1 and 2, even if I don't lose till my
So
last
you
round,
said
my breakers are probably
you're
too
going
bad to
first?
make it. So
We also had some
Okay.
big names in this
Oh,
ProQuest. Just
okay.
like yesterday, we had
I actually don't remember.
Pino
so
Flag,
picking
Dan
up.
Rukowski, Yuanji, Brody.
Uh,
Just lots of high quality players.
well, you named the ones who actually made top 8. There were a lot more that didn't make top 8 that were just as impressive.
Ethan
Namely
Van
me.
Sant.
I bubbled at 11th,
Said you
so
were first.
pouring out for your
Yeah.
Levier brethren. But Noah, who was top 8 yesterday as
Oh, I
well,
wanna
he
say
also
that.
bubbled out at 13th. We
Not
had
even
the
gonna
great
play
Balake,
I'll
who
go
was the
first.
7-0 Briar
I'll go
yesterday,
first,
go
yeah.
0-3 and just
Yep.
do pretty much nothing today. Like, if I
Thank you so
only
much.
saw his performance today, not saying I would have, like, no respect for him, but I definitely
Good
wouldn't,
luck.
like, have the respect I have right now seeing just his insane level of play yesterday. If you were like, oh, I went 0-3, I'd probably be like, man, you're probably just not a perfect player yet. But I would call that man pretty perfect. He's awesome.
So we saw the fist bump happen from both players. So the game has gone underway. Naib being first seed does get to choose to go first or
Okay.
second. And Naib seems to have
Focus
chosen
for
to go
twice.
first over here.
Yes.
Which in the fatigue matchup makes a lot of sense because even if you send attacks on the first turn, you do still rip cards out of them. Now, we may not see those attacks come out. Maybe he's looking to settle more of a 6-card hand, which is one of the scary things Lexi can do when they get
Yep.
to go first.
There's first again.
You know what's actually scary? I just realized, last comment I'll make outside the game, we actually have to pack up after
Oh my
all this
god.
is over. So, oh gosh.
Thanks for reminding me.
That's terrifying.
So we saw Night Pitcher lighted up there. Now that's something you don't normally see in those Ice Lexi lists, obviously because
Going to one.
it's a lightning fuse card. I'll be very excited to see how that comes into play later. Although if a bunch of the Oldhim's equipment has already been used by that time, then
No
maybe
fuse.
the lighted up will come in for less. If the Crater Fist has been broken and the legs have also been used.
Right, but I think you can guarantee a lot more of those equipment pieces are sticky in this kind of matchup. Like Crown of Seeds and Rampart, they're not going anywhere. And
True.
in a way, if you can get an early one to hit, there's an extra equipment piece on the board to deal that damage with a shield being there, right? So it makes a lot of sense to board that in because I don't think we saw it last game.
That's
Let me-
such a great point, especially when you consider the drill shot, which we know now will prioritize to try and get on the rampart. Now, that's just a useless equipment piece that's sitting there that's going to deal you 1 extra damage if you get hit by the lighted up fused.
So pulling up Lighted Up, just because, yeah, this is a card you really don't see that much. Actually, that text box is so loaded. Let's just read it out to everybody because I really don't think you can see that. It's a Lexi spec, right? Yellow 1 for 4 majestic, blocks 3. It's an arrow. With
wait,
lightning fusion,
take that.
says if Lighted Up was
7?
fused, it
Cool,
gains,
that's
if this
cool.
hits a hero, deal 1 damage to them for each
That'd be
equipment
great.
they control. If Lighted Up deals
Congrats,
damage to a
Tom.
hero equal to or greater than the number of equipment they control lose and can't gain activated abilities until the end of the turn. Oh my god, what a word salad. In fact, that activation text, in a way, does affect Tunic. It does affect Crown of Seeds. That might actually be relevant as well. But really, it's the damage. If you can make this thing deal damage is closer to victory. That's what Naib cares about. Victory over the Oldhim.
Definitely.
I get it. That was bad, but whatever. We're tired.
Walter?
So we see a Winter Spite come out from Naib. Also the previous turn, Hayden sent in
+1.
Glacial
Or go
Footsteps for
again.
8,
1 hit reload.
and Naib just blocks 3 on it. Over here we see them flip up the Winter Spite, giving the Oldhim a Frostbite, and then coming in with the Winter Spite. Oldhim, of course, pitching a blue. Now, this Winter Spite, the 2 floating from Oldhim, well, they still can use its resources, right? They can use 2 to pitch into Crown, but it critically means that the Frostbite that was given to them, now that's 1 resource they're down to activate into their Rampart. So that does affect how much they can block without losing cards from their deck.
Absolutely.
Block
Yeah.
4. Cool.
So what's interesting
Again.
with the Frostbite that gets passed over
Or go
on the
again.
turn,
4 on.
honestly, you
put
might
a
have
-1 counter
even
or
just
something
said
you can
this, so stop me if I'm repeating you, but I zoned out. When you pitch a blue for the Crown Rampart, that breaks the Frostbite, and the 1 floating doesn't really. I mean, like, there would normally be 1 floating anyway, right? If you're pitching a blue for the Crown Rampart. So you can break Frostbite pretty easily with that play pattern and not have to worry about, okay, my 1 card whales were taxed. No, they're not. You still just play through it.
Yep.
Guess I'll use an actual marker.
And here we see Hayden pitch another card because he waited until after a Frostbite
should be
resolved
using,
to activate the Crown Seeds. Oh, actually, also the Winter Spite effect made him lose 1 resource there. So is that plus the Frostbite that forced Hayden to
This
pitch
is
2
4,
cards
right?
to do the Crown Rampart?
Oh, I see. Yes,
Yes.
the Winter's Bite previously also
Yep.
makes sense. Okay, so drill shot.
on it,
Unfortunately, there was no rain razors, no cheeky way to try to pump that over, and that's probably a really tough card to make hit because even if you go for rain razors, the Earth React can cover
take
that
5.
pump too. So for drill shot to hit, it'd have to be, Oldhim commits really early on with his cards in hand on the chain. Drill shot somehow comes in right at the end, but man, if that hits on the Rampart, Naive will start to feel very differently about this game. So counting down his
take this
opportunities
off
to
the
even do
crowd.
that, pretty relevant. That's 1 drill shot down.
1 in hand.
And we already see a last-ditch effort in the pitch zone, so we're going to see that come back around.
Absolutely.
And coming back to the Rain Race, now we don't have the players' deck lists here, but a lot of
3
Oldhim
to 2?
nowadays are running fewer
Personal
cards.
pass.
Ever since
Sounds
Pulse
good.
got banned and they
Yep.
started cutting Oak and Olds from this list, it's very likely that Hayden may only have just 3 blue Autumn's touches in the list, which makes the Earth React, like easier for Knife to deal with, because he
Go
maybe
again.
he sees some Autumn's touch being
4 on
initially,
it,
and he
reload.
knows there's no way there's an Earth React to come in. So the Rain Razor's drill shot, we could see that, get that Rampart.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Actually, it really is just Autumn Touch. I'm not even sure what other blues we've seen flexed. So tomorrow, haven't seen it. Earthler Surge, haven't seen it. You would have thought like those are the ones that start to make their way in, but no,
Tomb
definitely.
of Harvest, some of them.
Or Tome of Harvest. Yeah,
Yep.
to be fair. But no, yeah, I really think it is just down to those 3 Earth.
Yep.
But Ice Rack can get a lot of value.
Got it.
In a way, there's ways to play around it. Like Voltaire, when you Ice React, can load that 1 card hand if it was an arrow into Arsenal. But there's a lot of other situations where Ice
1
React
card in hand?
still, you have more information. Like you know that it's it's maybe the second attack. Voltaire can't be used again. Whatever it is, Ice React can still come up to deny Arsenal a lot, and that can be a big deal.
And very interestingly, Knipe actually has
Oh, it's over
counterplayed
here.
Ice React too. Now, honestly, the reaction step in this matchup is really, really exciting because of what you just said. Maybe it stops Knipe from going wider, but at the same time, Knipe can respond to the Ice React by activating Voltaire and then putting an arrow in the arsenal. And now the Ice React did nothing; it just cost the Oldhim 1 entire card. So you're right to point out there's a lot of back and forth going on in the reaction step in this matchup.
Yes.
So we saw a CNC out of Naib. Now, I think this is part of what he was saying, where he brings a 71 card deck
Just gonna swap it out
into
for
this
guy.
matchup. That might
Yep.
just be every card he
Think
has
about
in
that,
his
could probably
board.
use 'em.
I thought maybe he's playing around with, like, specifically, I need 71
4
cards for this
effects.
strategy, but seeing Command and Conquers, that's a card that you normally just straight cut against an Oldhim. But so that likely references that Naib really just has everything in his deck, everything he can do to just survive the amount of damage that Oldhim will soak up. He just needs more attacks to still try to get across the line.
Definitely. And as we talk about the fatigue, very critically, that CNC took 2 cards out of Hayden's deck because 2 cards were used to
Yes.
put in front of it. Now, that's 1 card lost from Naib for 2 cards from Hayden. And since we are likely to get to the state where last-ditch effort becomes relevant, that card disparity might actually be a big part of this matchup.
You can totally see that's kind of what it boils down to. Sometimes if you're playing for fatigue, the Command and Conquer, if it took 2 cards to block with, you only spent the 1 card from deck in presenting it in the first place. So that's a minor win. You got to celebrate those things. They're tasty.
Yep, that's what this matchup is all about. This really exemplifies that Flesh and Blood's a game of inches, and I can't think of
Last turn.
maybe the Oldhim mirror a little more, but this is one of those matchups as well, where it's really
Smash
each player
finish
just
it.
trying to get that 1 extra inch every turn cycle to finally close it out.
All right, so we already see some interesting use of all these instant speed effects. So Naib tries to reveal ice. Hayden responds with Tunic Float.
5,
Pretty
6,
interesting.
7, go ahead.
That one
Go
Tunic
again.
Float,
One hit for load,
that likely means
log
Rampart
conversion.
always gets paid for. Beyond that, pitching a whole nother card to activate Crown probably still doesn't feel super relevant. So I'm interested to see if you had like a really poignant reason or not for that one floating this turn specifically, or if it was just a way to make sure you paid for Rampart easily.
Oh, it looks like it was to pay for the sink below,
Oh,
actually.
pay for sink below.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. That is good
From the
use.
first
Well
one.
done.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Block 7, 3 in hand.
I'll play Arctic.
Although there is a bit of an overblock on this Heatseeker, I believe. I think the Heatseeker was only coming for 5, and Hayden does come at a full 7, playing around the Rain Razors, I think.
Yep, playing around Rain Razors. That's one of those cards, Heat Seeker. Big value play when New Horizons is still in play. It's one of those enablers to just get
2 to
more
1.
situations that present 3 or 4 wide turns. That extra card in Arsenal for free. Really big deal. Also, we looked it up from the last round. I don't remember mentioning it. It's actually not an optional effect. So in that situation we talked about last game where Dan did block the Heat Seeker, Naib wouldn't have been able to choose whether or not to load that, and he could have gotten in that brick scenario you mentioned. So pretty interesting because I haven't read these cards too closely, so we'll see if things like that come up. Very, very
Let's see
minute
reveal.
things, but if they do,
Give me a
all the better for
Yeah.
the complications of the game that is Flesh and Blood.
So we saw Naib end with the Red Arctic Incarceration there, which actually stopped the Winter's Whale. But very critically, that's 1 less card in Naib's deck, whereas Hayden didn't lose any cards from just getting a bunch of Frostbites, not even take a bunch of damage. This is just, Naib has the tempo here, but how much is that going to matter when the game comes on to a game state of both players trying to fatigue each other?
Ooh, well, pitching an Art of War is a card with a lot of
2 for crown?
purpose in second cycle. If you can set up those godlike Art of War turns where you loop into a second one, maybe even a
1 in
third one,
hand,
and
yes.
get the dream
2 in hand.
3 Art of Wars paid for by 1 blue, if that's what you can set up, incredible.
3,
So
4, 5.
those kind of situations do come up when you have room
Very nice.
in the matchup, because we mentioned there could be a lot of
Low
disruption on
turn
Oldhim's
shot,
side.
go again.
From these early turns, it really hasn't been.
4, go
I mean,
again.
there was
1 hit
damage
for
when
block.
it was easy to present, like on Oldham's turn 1. Yeah, he threw a Glacial, but he hasn't been trying to keep aggressive hands.
1
He's still
card,
committing a
has
lot of
go
cards
again.
to the combat chain on defense rather than offense.
Definitely, and very good point about that pitch art over here. A player at
use
Naib's
that
level
for
and caliber
this.
definitely has pitched that and is
This
expecting
is
to
5,
pitch
this is 3,
things
4,
that'll
5.
go along with it, like what you said. Could be Art of War or other
Okay, so
amplifiers
3,
like Rain Razors and 3 of a kind.
Quick react.
Yeah, can you have 1 card in hand?
Searing shot again on the chain here.
We see an Earth React come out from Hayden
bad.
here, one of the
Okay.
few Earth cards in their deck, I believe. Yeah, that's a blue Autumn Touch, so 2 more. Naib's definitely going to be tracking this.
So at this point, in terms of cards conserved, we've seen. Oh shoot! You know what? We should have been tracking the
about
pitch
whether
stack
to,
specifically, but I do believe
or
when Naib chose
One
to
card
go
in hand.
first, part of the reason, like you even
Not
mentioned, I
crossing.
believe, was
Nope.
to put some reds purposely at the bottom. It's only turn 5. He's only pitched. Oh, there you go, Brody.
Turning to 2.
Oh, okay. lot going on in the background.
Got it.
He at this point is like a full hand away from like those first cards he pitched because it's up to turn 5 now. So the Art of War, I haven't recognized him pitching another one. So it's not like we're really building to a double Art of War combo, but at
Heat
least there's
Seeker.
the one there. If he
5
sees
go
another
again.
one in those next hands, it's going to start to build something pretty scary, like in that second cycle that even Hayden would likely notice. I mean, you do notice that first Art of War. If a second one comes up, then yeah, you know trouble's coming. You can try to save maybe CNC pummel. Maybe you start keeping half a disruptive piece in your arsenal as the turns tick down because you know that's about his second hand in the pitch stack that you're trying to disrupt.
Definitely, very good point there. A key thing to know about the Oldhim's pitch deck, though, nowadays with all the ice cards that they are running, there are lots of 2 blocks in the Oldhim's deck. So as it gets a second cycle, their blocking actually does get quite a bit more inefficient. And we see this
3,
already.
4,
Here.
5.
His hand
Yep.
has a Frostfang. Now, he's a huge fan of this card, but very critically, it does block 2.
And let's go again. 4.
Yeah, only blocking 2. When you're in this fatigue strategy as Hayden's playing this early game, that can be critical. It's disruption, but it's not taking cards from deck. It actually allows you to pitch back in. Frostfang, you may discard or pay 2. Well, paying 2 in a way can help what Naib's trying to do. I mean, life is a resource, right? If he takes 5 damage to actually help his pitch stack a little bit, hey, maybe a win actually.
Very, very good point. And here we see one of those critical cards for the Fatigue endgame. One of the Endless Arrows is out of the deck. Now, that is one of those cards that in the late game Fatigue matchup, that can be Lexi's version of a weapon. Because if the Oldhim ever lets it hit, it just goes back to hand and they can just keep firing it again and again. So Hayden will be tracking a number of Endless Arrows used from Naib's side. We've seen one so far.
Thank you, Deidre. She's shouting us out for just doing all the coverage. I thought yesterday was a bit tough. I think today, the fact that we played this ProQuest and then jumped into top 8, because we weren't mentally ready. We thought, obviously, we had dreams of top 8 ourselves. Today's almost proving harder than yesterday, but we're still here.
I definitely agree with that.
Honestly, thanks for the shout out. It means a lot to feel appreciated.
Thank you so much. Oop, here we see the second Endless Arrow pitched by Naib here.
Oh, okay. We saw it. Okay, cool. Camera didn't actually crash. Beautiful.
Both Hayden's definitely noticing this Endless Arrow that's been pitched, and Naib definitely did that with a lot of intent, as you've correctly been pointing out the rest of this game. Also, a Lightning Press pitched with this Endless Arrow. Now, that's the combo setup right there. That is what will allow Naib to push that Endless Arrow on hit later in the game when he needs to keep recurring and to keep getting those last few cards out of the Oldhim's deck. And then this is the third Endless Arrow. And all 3 Endless Arrows seem very, very close together here, which can be a bit bad for Naib. So let's see how he navigates this. He chooses to keep 1 in the deck. He knows where that one is. And he's opted to let these 2 go. Now, he knows about Oldhim's relevance in this meta, and he came prepared to fatigue them. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Remembrance in his list to bring those Endless Arrows back in.
It could be a Remembrance. It could just be a lot of faith in what Last Ditch Effort and like a really strong, like purposeful Art of War type of pitch deck is doing for the deck, because there's a Lightning Press next to that Endless Arrow as well. So that's almost, if Hayden remembers, maybe he plays around it by overblocking, but if he doesn't, then that's almost a forceful way to say, I'm actually playing with 4 Endless Arrows. Because here we go, pump 3, it hits. We play with that again. And in a way, if that goes through, the Art of War is guaranteed higher value without having you pitch that many arrows back in your deck. If that's the replayability from a single Endless Arrow, that can really come up huge.
Definitely. And we talked about the pitch stacks from both of them. Look at that. That's 3 reds that Naib is going to see again later on. Now, those will definitely be relevant. We've seen him be pitching a lot of blues early on, but now there's a stack, a string of 3 powerful reds right there in Endless Arrow, CNC, Lightning Press.
I'm not sure CNC is something you really value too much. It could be part of, well, I was going to say some kind of situation where, like, Hayden, he's running, like, sync blows in this type of situation. Naib tries to play around the fact that he drew them in this one hand by making this as CNC in turn hand. Now, that's too... I don't think anyone's trying to play to that degree right now.
That's 5D chess right there.
It's getting, 5D chess. We're a little too late in the day, and honestly, I don't even think anyone really plays that way. It's just something you talk about, like, oh yeah, like I pitched my CNC to match your sync blow. I mean, if that's just how you drew it up, sure, you don't just always get to, like, yes, I'm holding a CNC in hand for when you pitch your sync blow. Yes, now I'll pitch my CNC. Those situations like aren't real. It's just if it comes up that way, right?
Yeah, but I think the sequence of load an Endless Arrow of Volterra, give it go again, threaten a Lightning Press on top of it, which probably would cause Oldhim to overblock, and you follow it up with a CNC, could be a strong turn we see from Naib later on.
Frostbite's good.
Sure. Yeah, we keep referencing later on because these in-between turns are honestly pretty unexciting. Hayden is just taking it slow. I could have sworn since he lost to this type of play in Swiss, he would try something different, but maybe it was a closer game than Naib let on. Naib seemed pretty confident when he was talking about beating these Oldhims, but maybe in Hayden's POV, it was a lot closer game. He thought it was just like one little minute decision on a fatigue-style game that lost him the match. So he's just gonna try to fix like that one little decision point and just pull ahead with that same strategy. So really interesting. I expected something way different out of this game, but Hayden is basically saying, it's up to you. It's up to you to answer my block.
Can I take a peek here?
Yep. And one thing that might have been missed there, Naib flipped over the Arsenal card with Lexi's ability and put a Frostbite on the stack. Hayden responded by activating Tunic and using Crown of Seeds already. So that Crown of Seeds damage prevention is floating while this Frostbite is on Hayden's side of the field. So given that Hayden didn't pitch an actual card in Crown of Seeds, I'd be surprised to see a
5,
ramp card
correct?
block.
2, 3, 4,
But of
5.
course, that
Any
also
choose go again?
matters on the breakpoints that Naib starts to threaten. Right now, Hayden is looking at a drill shot being pumped by an ice
Block
quake,
6.
maybe even being pumped by a Voltaire. Not sure whether this is given go again.
Voltaire.
Looks like it was given go again.
Pitch.
Once again, not in a situation
green
to threaten
Yes.
over the top with a Rain Razors.
True.
Would have been incredible. We see there's not an Earth card in Hayden's hand. This is the kind of
+1.
big deal situation where if that had cheated through, what a different game. And
No
this
card in
is
hand, one
really,
Arsenal. Yep.
I mean, with these drill shots now all accounted for, that's the third red one, I believe. At this point, there is no longer the play line of -1 on Rampart. That's just not going to come up.
He does run the rainbow drill shots, actually. I did ask
Oh,
him.
yellow?
Yeah.
Yellow as well?
Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
asked him before this game. He said he runs rainbow drill shots because of how critical it is in these fatigue situations.
I see.
So I
Interesting.
could be wrong. He did also tell
Blue
me he
4 or
runs
5?
no 2 blocks on blue, but we did see blue Winter's Bite. But it could be just, just those. Because all the other ice cards we've seen out of them, like the Ice Quakes and the Incarcerations, have been
3
red.
to 1.
And most of the other blues have all been 3 blocks in the sense that they're arrows or last
Arsenal pass.
So what you're saying is he just lied to you.
Drop away.
Naib, untrustworthy. Look at that. He said, I don't run those 2 black blues there. Totally did.
So you're.
I love
I just
Naib.
Arsenal pass.
It's just a long day, right?
Yep.
Waiting.
So this
That's
this
pretty far.
Arctic
That's
incarceration
fine.
face
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
Arsenal, a lot
Good to have.
different type of story when you're playing into an Oldhim. It's not the fear factor it is against an aggro deck that really has to weigh that decision of, oh, but I didn't want to block with this hand, but now I guess I have to interact. And then Arctic incarceration punishes that kind of play anyway. If you do just say, okay, I'll eat it to keep this hand, Arctic instead. Well, in Oldhim, that's committed to just, well, I'll block anyway, block anyway. The only type of punish you really have with Arctic is if they try to keep a 1-card hand for Whale in a way, if that's the kind of situation that comes up, cool, you do save yourself 4 life by playing it out. So hopefully that's what Naib can get out of it. But Hayden, very heads-up player. He's probably going to just keep on, I'll block 2 on this attack, on this arrow, block 2 on this arrow, and just make you play out Arctic for 0 value.
That is so
Go
true.
again?
In this
Okay.
sort of matchup, tempo really
Okay.
isn't the name of the game here, as it is in the aggro matchup. Like what you were
Ready?
saying,
Yep.
you force the
No
aggro deck
fuse?
into an
No fuse.
uncomfortable position where they're leaking damage
Absolutely.
and getting punished by this incarceration. In this
So,
matchup, the
5
main
go
resource
again.
is really the cards left in the deck, and Oldhim choosing to conserve that, and won't really care about his incarceration. Saves a hammer swing, but it doesn't take any cards out of his deck.
Yeah, actually, good point. But life
Yep.
is, I mean, as we've said it already, it is a resource to use with real intent in this matchup, especially when you're trying to slow down and more purposefully pitch. You can take more big swings of life if it
Reactions.
means it
Yep.
advances your endgame pitch stack.
Nice.
So if he does save himself that 4 life at some point because of the Arctic,
Go ahead.
that still feels like a big win at some point because that's a future hammer swing he can say yes to, right?
This was
So this is the first time we've seen Hayden do an ice react, and that's very heads up of him. I think he's aware about the
Arctic.
Voltaire shenanigans that
Sure.
Naib can do, where if you ice react, he just activates Voltaire in response. But in this case, he knew that the card in Naib's hand was an ice card because of the fused ice fan.
Oh, this actually comes up though. This is a 2-card hand that
Yep.
Naib was able to play Arctic Incarceration of.
Turning to
This
2. Yep.
saves you
moved
4
Arsenal.
life.
Yep.
Unless he pitches 2 blues to Whale. That is a way to do it, to be fair. Maybe he's thinking, if I pitch that way, I'm just likely going to end up with a
Sure.
1-card hand later to just put into Crown. But he is leading into Tunic 3 on his next turn, so he could prioritize having the Crown, or
Yep.
just have the Arsenal right now guaranteed for those playlines if
What's
he
the
has to
reveal?
block 4 right now. So he just
Okay,
says,
close.
okay,
Yep.
fine. I don't swing. I pass on a 2-card hand. It's inefficient. Good job, Naib. You used Arctic Incarceration well.
And critically, I think giving up the Arsenal means you're also giving up Rampart for that turn, because pitching a whole card to get 1 block of a Rampart isn't
Crossbar.
very, very inefficient.
Choose
Whereas when you
Dogen.
combine it with the Crown effect,
Three
now that's
Dogen, no
something you
fuse.
actually want to do. And now look at what Naib flipped up with Lexi's ability. It's exposed to the elements right there.
Oh, wow.
Now this is just another tech piece that he's brought in for this older matchup. Now
In
that
response to
can
the attack.
blow up the
Yep.
Crown. So he's got two great tools in his list to deal with this fatigue matchup. Either maybe he tries to get a drill shot to land on the Rampart, or he exposes the Crown. Both cases means that both pieces of equipment are essentially nullified
attack
because
style,
you
move the
really need
blocks.
both
Sure.
of them to be blocking efficiently. If you just have one of the pieces,
Block 3.
pitching a whole card to block
Reactions.
one, that's not going to get you there.
Well, exposed is definitely
Double
the
read.
better of the two, because if you hit crown, you also take away the ability for Hayden to have 4 cards in hand, tunic at 3. He goes ahead, tunic, crowns for that extra card. Now he's got 5 cards in hand to block, plus the tunic, damage prevention floating. That's insane to be able to pull off,
And he
right?
didn't fuse
So,
anyways.
yeah, if he gets to pop crown, that is
you have
much
free-floating,
bigger
right?
deal than
Yes.
hitting rampart, because, like you said, taking
your ice
one
reactor
away
is-
kind of nullifies the other as well, makes it super inefficient. So
Sure.
I'd love to see him
We'll Voltaire once more.
line this
my
up,
prevention.
but
Yep.
you know, the pay 2 is always an
one.
option with the ice fuse to save your
5.
equipment piece. And since it's face up, Hayden will be able to play around that. Like, there's no way he doesn't. He's already got 2 floating as of now.
So we have talked about how both, well, Naib at least bringing in his entire sideboard into his
It's a 5,
matchup.
right?
I wouldn't be surprised to see an Insidious Chill come out at some point, and then now that exposed becomes even more threatening, because then Oldhim can't really block all the arrows, because if he blocks all the arrows when it goes back to his turn, he doesn't have enough to actually pay into the exposed and the Insidious Chill trigger. So that's another way to combat
Just
the
thinking
fatigue,
about
because
this.
you sort of stop the Oldhim's ability to block just by threatening these exposed to the element that's in your arsenal.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point. I don't know. We haven't seen the Insidious yet, right? Is that something he mentioned to you that he's running, or something you just suspect Lexi to have?
I expect it to have. I
Yeah,
think in this
yeah.
matchup we saw Chris Iali in
Yep,
the
Chris
Age
Yali
Open.
definitely
Yep.
runs it.
Run that in the Oldhim in the finals. So I expected to see it, but I'm not
Before
entirely
we go
sure
into
whether he's
blocks,
running it in
I'm
the
going
list.
to say 2 to crown.
Oh, okay, interesting. There would have been a window there to try to expose. Oh, you know what? Never mind. Hayden did have the 1 card in hand before crown resolved, actually. But
Block 3,
um,
3 prevention floating.
Also, I
Still.
believe
Got
Naib
it.
doesn't have. I'm not sure how many cards Naib has, but he would need 2 to be able to play the exposed and fuse it.
oh, because it
I don't
costs
think-
2, doesn't
yes,
it? Yeah, it does. Oh, okay, never mind. Not a play line anyway then. Thought it was free for whatever reason, but no, that totally costs 2.
8 to 3.
It's a non-block.
Yes.
It's a Levi card basically.
It is an instant though. So yeah, if you can force the Oldhim to block a bunch on your turn, you can just expose them on their turn. The wizard level play right there.
That's a good point too. Wow, didn't even think about that. Instant speed and shenanigans. Now Voltaire instant as well, but you'd really never see it played on your opponents other than like that first.
Yep.
You know, potential. You know, oh, you went first, you passed. Okay, boom, I'll load something out. But yeah, the
+1?
expose there operates on a different angle. Yeah, go for it. Where it's an instant that really can be played like that. Good point.
Luis Schilling Ice Vein come infused, also buffed up by the Ice Quake. So probably give and go again, unless that Ice Quake in Naib's hand is a last card in their hand, in which case probably give this Chilling Ice Vein +1. A bit hard to see how many cards they have in hand. Naib, I've noticed, does like to put his hand on the table when he's like not looking at it or when the opponent's thinking about blocks. So it's a bit hard for us to see what he has in his hand.
That's funny. It's actually a habit I have too. I've played Levias so much now that all I need to do is like count the hand. All right, where's my blue? What's my attack? All right, boom, it's on the table. Like
Wow,
that's it. I mean,
that's mastery right there, Ethan.
I mean, come on. You don't actually have that many play lines. It's more like just don't mess up your arsenal play, and you have a consistent game.
Give yourself more credit than that. I know
No,
you track your
no.
graveyard, how many misses and sixes you have in there, and that's like a whole other
Whatever,
mini
man.
game
And
that
what's the
Levi needs to
payoff?
play.
Bubbling at 11th. Ugh.
Alright, so that 2 tracker on the Oldhim, I believe that was from the Earth React the previous turn, so I
block.
don't think that should be there right now. I believe that was the 2 damage
Reactions.
prevention from the auto stars they pitched earlier.
Activate tunic. Sure. So I have 2 resources.
There we go.
Staunch.
Yep.
Staunch.
And
Beautiful
3
card. We haven't seen
9,
one of those
3
played
and
yet, but
I think,
oh, did we?
no, I think we saw one pitch.
Someone pitched. Okay.
Yep.
But that speaks to at least another 3 of. That's a really good defensive resource sink. It's likely the blue, right? I don't think you're really playing reds right now in this metagame.
Yeah.
But even the blue, if you go for an insanely tall pump, I mean, wow, yeah, the blue still blocks like
6.
what 8
CNC
pay 2
1 in
cards
hand.
into it, something like that.
Pardon?
But
1 in hand.
because it costs 2, very adaptable to block with the rampart, block with crown. It really lets you cover the exact breakpoints you want to.
Yep. Very, very efficient card. And here we see the bane of Ranger's existence everywhere. A Command and Conquer. Now, there is no tuning up, so there's no pummel being threatened here. I'm sure Naib is very, very grateful for something like that.
Oh wow, imagine that. Wait, so there are 2 cards in Arsenal right here. So
Yeah.
both would get destroyed
Yep.
from a pummel
Block 6.
CNC type of
Okay.
turn. Thank
Move
goodness
Arsenal.
that can't happen.
Yeah. Although the pummel, if Hayden did pummel it, that leaves himself exposed to the exposed, because then
Oh,
he would have no cards. So
true. That
even if
instant
he had it,
speed.
I don't know whether he would do it.
You're absolutely right. It's
Okay,
that
okay.
instant speed play
Mhm.
that can really catch you out.
Right, going over to Naib, he gives the opponent a frostbite. Now this is actually quite relevant because Hayden is holding on to a sink below, so that frostbite could mess
River
up.
Yep. There's no tunic to do that same play he was going for last time.
Yep. So you can do the pitch 1 into Rampart and then... Oh, actually, he can pitch 1 into Rampart and then pitch 2 into Crown and still sink below. So still gets to be somewhat efficient there paying through the frostbite. Here we see the first 3 of a kind being played.
No, it's the second 3 of a kind.
That's
He
the second 3 of a
he
kind?
played
Oops.
one like right after the Art of War turn,
Okay.
which was something around then. I remember vaguely. But yeah, definitely not the first one.
Was that an Art of War played this game?
No. When he pitched the Art of War.
Oh,
was
when he
what I mean.
pitched
there
the
was
got
there's
it,
a
got
3
it.
of a kind that came like maybe like right after that.
I see.
Maybe like 2
Okay.
turns after that. Yeah.
Nice.
Drill shot.
An
4,
exposed
5, 6, 7,
exposed
go again.
Indeed.
fog.
Another drill
So I
shot
think about
coming
it
out
here.
here. Buffed. Oh, thank you for putting the...
Oh, there we go. Finally.
the damage
Is that
tracker
the first
there.
one of the game?
Hayden keeping the chat in mind here, and us.
All right, so actually, this is great to note because we had seen him play out 3. So
Yep.
some of those must not have been reds.
Yep.
There must have been some yellows thrown in there. Maybe a blue here or there. But this is at least for sure a red getting buffed 3 by that Ice Quake coming in for 4 right now. But it's very face-up damage. There can't be a Rain Razors on a 3 of a kind turn. Just not possible.
Very, very good point. Unless that Rain Razor was played from Arsenal or, is face up in Arsenal.
Okay.
So, very interesting decision by Naib to start with the drill shot, since we've talked about how important that on hit is. He might have opted to try and hide it, try and present some other arrows to force blocks out of Oldhim early on the combat chain, but he's opting to start with it. Now, that might mean there's another drill shot in hand, or some other on hit that he cares about more.
Absolutely. The other thing here is if you really do commit this many cards to that drill shot, exposed can come to bite you. So it's
Reactions?
not exactly like a
No, no reactions.
lose-lose, but you're gonna have to call a bluff at some point.
Sink?
On if I do just full block on this
Yeah,
turn
two
on
in
your
hand?
arrow hit
Yes.
effects, then maybe I'm left a little bit open to expose. So then if you're holding cards back,
I had
play
more
around
reactions than you
exposed,
don't.
then that means
Oh,
you
sure.
ate some damage somewhere. Because speaking of damage, like
Asia?
there really hasn't been damage exchanged for maybe like 7 turns at this
Yeah.
point. It's been
It
a
is a-
long time.
It is
since
a very,
damage
very
was dealt.
tricky position that Naib has put the Oldhim.
Good card.
It's
And we
tricky,
see the
but
Ice React actually go through here. There was one more charge of Voltaire there, but I guess Naib didn't have... Oh, no, he only had one
Change to
card,
two?
so
Yep.
either he pitches it or it's the
Personal?
arrow in any case.
Thinking.
Oh, wait. No, the Arsenal is not... I guess it's not an arrow in that case. Because if it was, he could have pitched into Voltaire and loaded the arrow.
right.
So, okay, let's
That's
whisper
fine.
this, but the card in Hayden's hand was a red there. He was actually vulnerable to exposed right there, but of course Naib can't know that.
Wow. Okay.
Or go again.
Even spy it. I wonder if that's like
It's a
just a
CNC.
gamble you have
Oh,
to make
okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because where else is this exposed really going to be playable? Maybe it is just such a key part of the win con that you just always wait for that perfect opportunity. But you do just have the room to wait. You can. Hayden is putting on 0 pressure. It's not that Naib's blocking in return. It's that Hayden is just not attacking. And so life has just been frozen this way for, like we said, like a good-
Forever.
forever, like 7 turns or so.
Yep.
All right,
Is
that's
that
the
the
second
last
LDE pitched.
4, go again. No fuse.
Yep. His Chilling Ice Vein is not fused. Yeah, we see Hayden blocking with cards like Spinal Crest. Normally, cards that you really want to throw at the Lexi to just, stop their turn. But you just see him be very happy just blocking with it. It's like what you said. He's just putting Lexi on the seat of you
Yep.
figure out how to deal, how to actually leak some
Four.
damage.
Someone's asking, on the other side of the bracket, what was the matchup? It was a Phi mirror. So there is a Phi waiting for the winner here in the finals.
Might be waiting for quite a while, to be
Yeah,
honest.
probably. We all will be.
Yep.
Nothing.
No sink.
Perfect pass.
Yep. Hayden just blocking everything so efficiently. We really see the value of Crown Rampart here. Those were 3-4 attacks coming out from Naib. All of them just
3 to
blocked
3.
cleanly, which
Blue
is 3
Arsenal?
cards.
Three.
Three cards on the combat chain, 1 card pitched for the Crown and Rampart.
As far as
remove
audio
that, okay.
goes, I think what's happening is we're trying to just talk a lot quieter because there's almost no noise in the venue anymore. And we're not that far from where the player table is. We're pointed away from them with a divider up,
forward
but at the
again.
same time, there is pretty much no one left in the venue. So if we talk any louder, we do risk the players actually hearing us. We did some tests of like if we yell, can they hear, blah blah. And you can't really, but we didn't test in this environment with nobody in the room. So we're trying to be a little bit careful, especially Pancake. He's getting really quiet. So I would ask probably talk like a little bit louder, otherwise you
3.
get cut out. But it is something we just have to be aware of. And on top of that, we are wearing masks. It's still a mandate for the
Two
SCGCon
+1.
events. So
Drill shot for
if you
4.
hear all the
One
huffing and
minus one,
breathing and the nasaliness, that's from the mask.
Exactly. In a top 4 situation, we definitely don't want to have a case of the players got some information because they could
There's
hear
no
the
going in,
classes.
right?
That would
No
just,
going in.
Right.
ruin a lot of the competitive integrity of this game. And now I want to point out to Knives' pitch there is a remembrance
7.
over there, so
7,
he
one
is
in it.
running those, and it'd be really cool to see like what he
Three
brings
actions.
back with it. Will just be
Okay.
2 or 3 last-ditch
5,
efforts,
But
or it could be the endless arrows that we saw him use
Range-
2 of
range razors?
already, and we talked about how that's a key card. So remembrance maybe will be used here to bring those back, and now we see the drill shot
This is
with the rain
4,
razors
5, 6,
and
7,
the
8,
lightning
9.
press. Is this
I'm blocking
sneaking
7.
through?
Yep.
No way, it happened. He said, and I'm blocking 7. Well, he's checking a bit. If that's Earth React, he'd
Yeah, I'll
do
take
it.
2.
It's not.
Take
He's
two.
like, yeah, sure, take 2. Drill shot, boom.
Drill shot some
hit.
damage got through. It's
That's
been
it.
years since some damage got through, but now we're gonna see the fatigue strat from Oldhim.
Cool.
And he points
really,
right on the
really
rampart.
host.
He's like,
Yep.
yeah, you know where that goes, man.
Yep.
It's over.
And this
Wow.
thing, even if there was an Earth React in Hayden's hand, he would
Had
go
both
into
of them.
instant with no cards. He'd be open to the exposed. So that was
I'm going to
just
move to Arsenal.
there's a 2-pronged attack from Naib there. There was nothing Hayden could do, even if there was an Earth React. Either the crown or the rampart was going away.
I'll take
that
a peek
turn.
here.
Amazing piloting by Naib here.
Imagine somehow he plays double exposed right after that. It's like, okay,
sorry.
game's just over. Sorry.
Yeah, I went to
Okay,
Arsenal.
sure.
Valiant effort,
That's
but
fine.
Yep.
I doubt it's a 2 of exposed. It's probably the
Yeah.
1 of, right?
Yep. So 2 damage leaked there and the -1 on rampart. We have some progress here.
Yeah, that's huge because if we talk about the way Hayden's been playing, it's with
think this might be
Rampart,
a bad
with
idea.
Crown,
Let's try
with
it.
3 card blocks. Like that's been his game plan now for basically the whole game other than turn 1. But he has to start changing his priority on
That's
how
yellow
he plays the
artboard?
game because Rampart's just not an option anymore. If you pay for it, it goes to 0 now. Big whoop, right?
Look at both players' graveyards. Both of them so full, almost the size of their decks here. So we still have quite a ways to go. We're probably going to see those decks go down to like the last, 4, 3, maybe even 0.
Naib is so cracked, says someone in chat. I fully agree. If you people have seen this guy before, I mean, he is an all-star. I don't think he's really had his big breakout in some of the bigger name tournaments, but he's killing
Chilling.
it some of these smaller circuit stuff. He won that 10K in Columbus, Ohio. We mentioned last round. With that Corsham
Use
Briarless, so he's always playing a
Gunner.
little off axis, but he's never going to dip to the dregs that is Levia. He's not going to go that far down the barrel, right? But he plays brews that he really works on and is passionate about proving the success of. So last ditch effort, Lexi. If we catch
So it's
both of
5 right
these
now 'cause they
wins
were?
on camera, regardless of what happens next round, super impressive. And in this game, no matter how it goes,
And
it's
one of the
been
ones
a
is
really
by-
impressive showing to find that opening, get that -1. But
Activate
what's
Jack.
even more exciting is how the rest of the game plays out now because everything's been shifted.
Yep, definitely. One of the very, very consistent players of this region. Such a treat to just have him on camera and get to watch what he's trying to pull off here. And we see Hayden use Tunic to Crown, and that's probably how we're going to see the Crown being used from now on. Just every 3 turns he uses Tunic to Crown, like what you were talking about. Still has access to that fairly efficient play. But we're unlikely to see a
Block
card being
5.
pitched to it anymore because you can't use your floating
Any
resources
reactions?
for anything else.
Ice React.
See an Ice React come out from the Oldhim? Now we know
Good
Nice
hands.
holding on to a
Yes.
Winter Spite because he did reveal it to the Chilling Ice Vein. So I wonder if he's going to pitch it here to Lord Voltaire a second time. Or maybe he's
floating
being very
anything?
mindful that he does want to pitch a Winter Spite and an Ice Quake next to each other just to, non-arrow attacks.
In a way, he might just use this as an opening to play out the expose. If he doesn't think expose is getting value anyway, then
yes,
at least
this
do
is a
something
prevention,
with
but
your
it's not-
resources.
Sure. No resources, all right?
Yeah, they're checking here. Now he's thinking about it. It's probably that kind of situation where he
Sure.
says, "Oh well, if that's a double red."
No,
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 okay,
no.
Okay,
never mind.
guess
He
that's
says
not
sure.
Oh, he
Let
put
it happen.
something else on top and he's just playing out the Winter Spite. Like, give me a card. I don't want to be hit by you
I'll
next
play
time.
one.
The people in chat are mentioning the resources spent here. Now, we have seen at least one Remembrance pitched by Neve. We know he's running triple LDE, last ditch effort. He hasn't had to block with him yet. He also pitched a
Turn to one.
really forced
Move to
Endless
Arsenal.
Arrow turn
Thinking.
with Art of War, Endless Arrow,
Lightning Press.
Lightning Press. So he's got that going for him before he hits that Remembrance to shuffle it up. So, yes, there's 29 life on the Oldhim side. It's looking a little depressing on that front. But if there's
Makes
someone
sense.
who's a master of using resources wisely,
There we go.
it will be Naib. So
Yep.
he's getting that last card in hand. this
Nice
could
try.
just be a way to try to force. Well, okay, never mind, because that's on. He's now drawing up. He paid for it, so he's
Yeah.
still down an entire card there. So
That was
not
on
exactly
Hayden's
a
turn,
damage push out of this, but it was a way to just skip Arsenal more than anything.
Yep. Although that does take 2 cards out of Knives' hand, plus, you know,
+1.
one card to pitch for the
Welcome
exposed
shot
and the
for
exposed
5.
itself.
Go again.
So
Reload.
this turn we can expect
card
it to
in
be
hand.
slightly weaker, which Hayden's definitely happy
Okay.
about because he was denied an Arsenal in the previous round. Now, very critically, I'll talk about the past 2 turns. Naib used an exposed, also used a Winter Spite. Both those cards were cards out of Naib's deck, which Hayden answered just by pitching. He pitched a red
Black
to the
5.
Winter
Straight
Spite,
in.
and then he
Yes.
pitched a blue to the exposed.
Can I get a deck
So
out?
on that front, in terms of cards in deck, Hayden actually went up on that trade.
So deck count here pretty important. So let's quiet down so we hear what they say.
29.
Cool. 26.
29
Okay,
to
wow.
26.
So
Wow,
even
very
Naib at
even.
26, Hayden at 29. Now, does Hayden run Remembrance? I don't believe we've seen a pitch, but then again, they do have access to Crown. It could be hidden somewhere there in the stack.
One of
Naib,
the things
we
that
have
starts
seen
to
it.
happen, though, that isn't great for either player as the
Three
pitch
to
stack
two.
goes on.
Yep.
Naib, of course, can't have every card in his pitch stack be an
Four
error.
with
He will
ice.
run out of damage, even if like those last 10 cards are in the deck. If they're not errors, doesn't matter, right? He's got last ditch effort to try to shore that up. But on the other side, Hayden, as he pitches through this, the ice cards also start to accumulate. That's a lot of 2 blocks in the deck. So it's not the card quality is gonna start to wane, obviously, as a pitch stack goes on.
Block 3.
But it really comes down to the
Damage?
aggressiveness next to
Okay.
Naive and the blocking
Trigger?
potential left
Yep.
in Hayden's deck. So they're going to
Blue
line up
Cosmo?
a bit strangely.
Pass.
We haven't seen everything that Crown has bottomed, to be fair, but you know we're seeing even here. Sure, that's a hypothermia on the
Wait,
bottom.
you're
That's
behind?
a 2 block. If there's enough of those, damage starts to leak. But 29 is still an insanely tall order to get through. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure really how to do that because it's not just like, yes, I got to LDE, I got to last ditch effort, I win, because you can't even get Hayden down to 0 cards in deck and expect to swing up even like a 1 attack weapon or something and win. You do
Reveal.
need the actual damage to come from
And
cards.
razors.
That's what happens on a ranger side. That can be a little bit tough. The bow itself deals no damage, so even accelerating to the good rates that an LDE last ditch effort can present, that also means
Oh,
you're
yeah,
out of
+1.
cards, right? So if those are
5, go
being
again.
swung
Okay,
and it's
reload.
just clearly not enough to take the Oldhim to 0 cards in deck, then sure, it was cool and all, but you still lost.
Yeah, definitely. And now that we have hit pitch stack, let's see
2
what
cards in hand?
Naib has crafted here. 3 of a kind, rain razors in arsenal, and loading a bolt and shot. This is exactly what he wants. We talked about this in a previous game. Bolt and shot, one of those key arrows that allows him to go 3, maybe 4 wide if you bring in the bullseye braces. So we can expect to see some damage being leaked here. And remember, this is
Some
not just a
damage.
randomly drawn
five?
thing. This is pitch crafted. Sorry, go on.
Rain razor.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be some damage, but it's a
First
question
react?
of how much damage, because you know
One in
what
it?
matters is
Yes.
quite literally the 0. It's not like the
So
weapon
this
can push
attack
like we
results.
just
I just
mentioned.
want to
So
give it a recommend.
it's about getting Oldhim to literally 0, because if he
choose
ends
wagon,
with
tapping
Oldhim at
heals.
1 but just
5,
has
go
no
again.
attacks
and
left,
reload.
all this effort was for naught. It just amounts to nothing.
This is amazing. Followed up the bolted shot with a pathing helix. Just 2 reload arrows,
Six,
basically
right?
back to
Sorry,
back, backed
6,
up
right.
by these
Yeah.
rain razors. Like, there's 1 rain razor.
Well, if Rain Razor can be pushed to the lengths of a 0
Bolter has
or
been used
6,
twice.
that's
Yes, sir.
great value. You want to start doing that, because it definitely didn't happen in that first cycle of the deck, but I would hope here that with that last card, or is it 2 cards in? I'm not even sure.
I think
it-
there's 1 card remaining.
one
So
card.
he needs his pathing helix to hit, I believe. Also, the Voltar activation, you know,
Okay.
2 of them have already been used.
Well, the Crater Fist and Iron Rot, these kinds of things are on the board to try to counter those pushes, like those deliberate hit effects that you're trying to stack together in your pitch stack. So they haven't been used yet because they're not really to block willy-nilly damage. They're to block that crafted turn where the hit effects needed to line up for a reload here or there, or like the second drill. I'm not even sure a second drill shot really matters at this point, but that kind of thing is why you keep equipment in play. You want the option to not just say, "Oh, a pathing helix I can do nothing about." So yeah, I guess reload happens. Nope. He's able to
2,
say
3,
block.
4, 5,
6.
6. Yes.
Very,
That
very
wasn't
good
ice
point.
react.
And
That
you
was
called
earth
it.
react, by the way.
Yep.
It
You
was,
called it, and it happened. Those armor pieces came out.
Boots breaks.
Yep. I mean, makes sense.
The only
It's,
block now is the tunic, right?
with Act 6 coming on the pathing
the one on
helix,
the
it was
Crater Fist.
already the 3 of a kind, so it couldn't be like a second rain or anything like that. couldn't be like
Pick up
an
my
art of war to
23?
push even
Yep.
one over,
That's
but
fair.
in that position,
this is
that
all-
wouldn't have been worth it anyway, because sure, you get like the reload through, you get the damage on art of war, but all that does is let you deal an extra, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 on whatever the reload. Well, Brain Razors are probably like 6 or 7 on whatever the reload was, but
Lexi reveal.
that doesn't get Oldhim to.
Heaven's
Mhm.
Claw.
Yep.
Next attack gains go again.
But Knive probably was expecting it. Now, that was the first push. It took away the Oldhim's equipment. It took away the arsenal. We saw the currencies being used that turn to soak up a bit of extra damage, stop that pathing helix on hit. That is no longer an option. Crater Fist, no longer an option. Let's see whether Knive has managed to craft a second go wide and tall turn.
One thing to note is we only saw him pitch
I'd
one
go again.
Remembrance. We're all the way. Excuse me. Oh my god. All the way through.
We are all the way through pitch tag. I do believe that's what Ethan's trying to say.
I just, like,
In my
swallowed a
brain, I
thorn
was
or
thinking
something.
that was
Jeez, that hurt. There is
surge.
only one.
So I'm like, how's
Remembrance
it
then.
5?
No, he's missed. We only saw him
Yep.
pitch the one, so it's not like a full place that's in there to say, okay, let me get back like 6 arrows, the 3 of kinds, whatever. There's not that much damage left.
Oh, take it.
It's true. You
27.
see the one endless arrow, even pumping the one endless arrow to shoot it for that second hit. That's not an indefinite loop. You don't have lightning presses forever. If you can get extra damage out of it, cool. But like we're
Sure.
still trying to count here, how much damage is realistically left?
Headshot. Go again.
I'm
We
getting
got
worried.
2 more damage in
4 go again.
into the Oldhim here. Oldhim did not manage to block out the Heaven's Claws completely, and that's what we talked about, right? Not having access to Crown or Empire definitely hurts their ability to shore up these breakpoints. And we see this headshot coming with go again critically. That lighted up is back in Knive's hand. We do see it was pitched pretty early on. It is back there. Probably not going to see it fired this turn because I don't believe he has a lightning card to fuse it.
Back 3?
Yep, take one.
Yeah, interesting. So those Heaven's Claws might be the
I'll
only
rotate
lightning
once more
cards
in
that
response.
showed up in that pitch deck. So with the lighted up,
He's +1.
Sure.
yeah, I don't think I've
take
seen
one.
other lightning for him to really fuse it. And
Six.
there he goes spending one. I believe we saw him pitch like maybe
5.
one more. So the fuse effect won't really come through. It's just a 1 for 5 right now.
And look
Of
at
course,
that.
Hayden has to read this card, right?
But it's not fused, so it's just vulnerable damage. But we do see the situation come up where Hayden went for the Ice React, and Naib said, I'm going to respond with Voltaire and just load this lighted up in
Yeah.
and fire it at you for 5. And you just wasted a card, basically.
So without the fuse, it doesn't deal damage for every equipment on the board, but it still turns off activating equipment, which might be relevant for.
Take 5.
Well, no, there's no arsenal, so it really won't be relevant unless, for whatever reason, he wanted to
Down
activate
to
teammates,
21?
which is never really going to happen. So it was just damage coming through, and now we see the Oldhim dip down to, I mean, 21. Like
21.
we're
That
on
was-
like turn 18.
That was
He's at
8 damage
21.
lead that turn? Or 7? Because the headshot leads some damage in as well.
Well, Oldhim was at 29, so there you
Oh,
go,
so
8
8.
damage leaked.
Yep.
But I'm starting to
Cool.
to
16.
see the doom spelled out here. It's
Move to Arsenal. Yep.
LDE is going to be cool to see and all, but I really just think it's going to amount to not getting close enough to win.
Well, with cards left in deck, I mean, they're both pretty even right now, so we might see that Endless Arrow endgame come in, the pseudo weapon that Lexi might have access to if the Oldhim can't block anymore because they don't have cards in deck.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right? Voltaire isn't inherently attacking; it's letting you shoot cards. So getting Oldhim to 0 cards in deck doesn't actually win you the game.
If you have Endless Arrow, it does.
Oh,
because
Endless Arrow.
Yes.
Oh, Endless Arrow specifically.
Yes.
Oh.
Which is what I believe the Remembrance is there for, to bring back those critical
Oh.
arrows. We know there's 1 Endless Arrow in the pitch deck, and there's 2 in the graveyard. There's Remembrance in the deck, so the 2 in the graveyard are going to be
I
coming
see.
back into
Is
the deck.
that literally
Endless
the
Arrow?
play? I
Is
didn't
that
even
it?
think of that, but you're right. With
Pseudo weapon.
It's the pseudo weapon. So with 0 cards in deck, if that's truly what you can craft, the Endless Arrow is repeatable because there isn't enough equipment block to get you out of that.
2 cards in hand?
Very interesting.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Naib has come up with such an amazing strategy for this matchup. And that's what's brought him here. He's in the top 4 here because of that. He faced, I'm not sure how many Oldhims he faced. We know he faced at least Hayden. It was early on, like round 1. Probably faced a few other Oldhims as well. We saw a lot of Oldhims here today. So he's crafted strategy and he's managed to execute it.
I don't know. That's still
Let's go
going to
again,
take
right?
like a miracle pill, but I'm interested to see if it happens. I see the line now. The issue of no actual weapon is solved by having the
And it's 4.
Endless Arrow and one other card to keep pitching on
I think
Voltaire,
agree.
but I don't know if we realistically get there. I hope.
So I believe this was an Endless Arrow pitched with that lightning
Give it
press.
to you,
We see that come out here.
Yeah, there should be the Endless Arrow next to the Lightning Press. It
And
should
cards
be
in hand?
So a CNC.
CNC.
4.
4 cards in hand.
So he's probably counting here on the sync blows, that kind of ability to defense react coming out of Hayden. I don't actually remember seeing a third sync blow by chance. I remember seeing the two that
With
came up
reactions.
next to frostbites that
Okay.
he was breaking
Article.
anyway because of like crown or
+1,
something.
+1.
As we see the hand,
Article results.
is that
Oh, out of what?
no sync,
Banishing that
no
CNC
sync.
does next answers. The lightning
Oh,
press
that
is
makes
somewhere
sense.
here.
That's what it was.
That lightning press is somewhere here. Let's see how Hayden chooses to cover this. I think now
Do you have something else?
for Hayden to show.
So it's coming over by 1.
Currently, yeah, but you have priority.
Nothing for me.
Because if Hayden does an Earth React, then Naib can play a lightning press. But
Play
if
my
Hayden
shame
does
ice,
sync below,
ice card that I
then
should have used.
you don't need to.
So
Then
this
probably won't see a
is
lightning press come out and use a staunch.
Right, it was staunch.
7, 8,
that's-
9, 10.
That's, I wasn't even looking for staunch. But yeah,
Yeah.
look at that. Sheesh.
Sure, that's fine.
It's a massive overblock on his Endless Arrow. Hayden really understanding the value of Endless Arrow in this state.
+1.
But we talked about
Mhm.
Remembrance. 3 Endless Arrows down the graveyard.
Uh,
All can be
6.
recursed? Recursion? What is there a verb for that?
Recursion. whatever it's-
Recurred, yes, that's a word.
There we go.
Block 4. Take 2.
Wow, so
Or
much
take two, yeah.
defensive capability still coming
19.
through. I
Yep.
really.
2 more
Okay,
damage
what-
leaked.
What's happening, Cameron?
Getting
There
that.
we go.
Getting it slowly. And that's 3 cards out of the Oldhim's deck. And Oldhim isn't returning Hammer at all. So this has just been card for card from both sides. Knife
So
sets
my
on
turn.
attack.
Tuning to 1.
Oldhim has been
I'm
losing
gonna try and
one
move
card from the
Arsenal.
deck to try and block.
Sure.
So that Remembrance
Yep.
might actually come in handy here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Remembrance in a state like this, yes, no matter what it's doing, if it's
let's
adding cards to
see,
deck, that's what is
reveal
relevant. What I'm hoping to
Lightning
see
Press.
is
Mhm.
that it actually helps execute some
Next check-in, go again.
late game lock to really get Oldhim consistently down to 0. He doesn't. I mean, the Oldhim player, he does. Oh, whatever turn. I don't know. Click it a couple times. I'm not
We've
sure.
definitely lost count of what turn it is.
It's super- Like the Oldhim player is the one who can start using his cards to return hammer if he's got the window for it. Which in a way he should start have those windows because it's not like Naib still has that many reds left. He's trying to craft these all together like pushes like in that pitch stack like we just saw with the endless arrow. But when the remembrance comes up, like that's a bit of a slowdown, right? That's a 4-card hand that is using 1 card strictly to shuffle more back into the deck. It's not a huge aggressive push. So when Hayden has those opportunities to say, "Oh, I get to keep some cards. Cool. I'll turn this into Winter's Veil Valley
played
or pitch that
Crosslock.
card back in deck.
+1.
Save the accelerated rate at which you were trying to
+1,
take
go
cards out
again
of my deck."
on Lightning Press.
No fuse.
That's a very good point.
no
We
fuse.
talked about the Winter's Bite that came out earlier, that is just -1 card from Naib's deck and no cards out of Hayden's deck. Remembrance maybe just offsets that, because Remembrance by itself is just +2 cards into Naib's deck, so it may not be enough. But I have faith. So we see a Frostlock here. It was fused and it's being blocked with the card. Now there are 2 floating on Hayden's side. Like, when they make a play like this, you have to
Green end?
wonder whether there's a
Yes.
staunch in hand, because otherwise that's very
You have no reactions.
Yeah, at this point, I believe it's 1 more staunch.
Ice
Right?
react?
There's the one in
Yeah,
hand.
I
He's
think so.
I have
definitely
to pay an
used
extra
2,
1, so I'll use one of my floating resources.
but he's got the
that's
3rd
fine.
staunch at least in hand right now. Like I said, I doubt he's
one.
running any red, so that's pretty much it.
Or go again.
He could still be hiding them with like some crown bottoms that he did throughout the game, but I really doubt it. I think it's just like that last staunch, and that's
No
going to
cards
be a
in
pretty
hand?
blown
Nope.
card to have kept this late in the game, right?
So we saw the Ice React happening again, but this time Naib already had the 1 floating for the Voltaire, so he couldn't make the play where he pitches to Voltaire and, loads an arrow to basically nullify the Ice React. He did have to lose a card, because to activate the Voltaire, he already had the 1
Block
floating.
3.
Yep, take 1. 18.
1 damage through.
One
We are getting
damage.
there, Ethan.
Whew.
Slowly but surely, Naib
What a
is
struggle, but
climbing
it's
this
happened.
mountain. Yeah.
The cat scratching, it's coming to fruition here. I really think if that expose had come up, the game really is just over. It's definitely
Change to
something
2.
Naib.
Moved Arsenal.
I mean, it's part of his game plan. It's why he's brought it in. But
Sure.
I feel like Hayden just did a really good job of just never getting, never giving Naib the opportunity to just freely use expose. It was always a choice of him. All right, I'll make you skip Arsenal, make you call that you had a red or a blue in Arsenal. If you have a
Can I
blue,
get
then
that
this does
second real
nothing. If
quick?
you have a red,
Yep.
I'd have to get lucky. But there was that one turn where you pointed out he actually could have tried to expose because the last card in hand was just a command and conquer.
16.
So I wonder if in looking back at this
9
Naib, or
Pardon?
looking at this
9
game,
here.
Naib will try to pick up on like, I don't know, this is next level again, but tells for that kind of thing because
Yep.
he had that exposed play sitting in Arsenal for so long, and it did come up on that one turn where if he just went for it, he actually would have caught Hayden on the red. So, I mean, it was there for like 6 turns. He didn't really know which turn it would have been the right call to make, but we saw it, and gosh, I wish it had come up because Crown would be gone, and I'd feel a lot better for Nate. But for now, I don't have the faith you do, honestly. As we look at this hand cam right here, that deck really is down to
Nice vein.
maybe
Mhm.
10's
The
even
plus
a
one.
high number. I'd say maybe like
Six,
two hands there,
fuse.
maybe 2 hands.
Yep. Well, it's very important to point out, ever since that -1 counter got onto the Rampart, Hayden has been leaking damage. It is not. We had the life stall for like about 10 turns in the middle, but then the
Trigger in
-1
here?
counter got on the Rampart, and Hayden has leaked about 10 damage since then in the past 3 turns. Although now
Which grapple
Naib
is
is
an
getting
action or an
to
instant?
those
In action.
resource card arrows, like you pointed out, the yellows, the blues, and he's being forced to fire these. Now that last-ditch effort in pitch zone, that has come around, I think, twice now. So they're
Well,
really getting deep into third
Box
cycle.
edge.
at this
The,
point.
the other
Two
two
actions.
last-ditch efforts are right next to each other.
Yep.
So that's at least going to be funny to see, but Ice React
Okay.
definitely disrupts that kind of play. You don't get to just say, oh, 3 last-ditch effort in a blue, I get to swing 16. That doesn't happen
Yeah.
because Ice React exists. So you'd have to have like,
This is 5, 8,
I
9.
guess,
Yeah.
you'd have to have one in Arsenal and then have that 4-card hand. They Ice React, you get around it, you keep
Earth
going.
React?
It's
Yeah.
possible.
Blocking
That
nine.
is a play line that
And one
can
in
come
hand?
up. Like you
Yes.
said, Naib has a lot of room. With his life, if that's the turn he's trying to set up, he can pretty much say no blocks to
That's fine.
almost anything to get him there, as long as it's not like a commanding.
Move down.
Even if it's just like a winter spoil type of turn, Tunic lets you get around that, right? Like the Tunic resource is going to pay around Frostbite. So in terms of light disruption, if that's the late game play Naib is trying to build, he's got
Doing to 3.
he's got it.
Move to Arsenal?
It's in the cards.
And we
thank
talked
you.
about this earlier about the Oldhim's pitch tag also being full of blue ice cards, which
Sure.
block 2. We just
Yep.
saw Hayden pitch a Blizzard. Now that card does not block. We can,
Lexi.
that might bite,
Give you
do
prospect.
some bad things for him later on if you can't block with it. Sure, it stops the turn, but it doesn't.
Tunic
It's a
Crown in
card
the
out
front.
of your deck and not a card out of Naib's deck.
Oh, actually, let me pull up the wording on something. So last ditch effort, I believe on play is when it checks. When you play last ditch effort, if you have no cards in your deck, against +4. So actually,
Cool. That's good.
you would never be able to
Yeah,
play the
that's fine.
double last ditch effort turn with Ice React because
would
you're
just
putting
wait.
a card back on top of the deck. So the second last ditch effort actually never gains that text.
True.
Funny
True.
enough.
Very, very true.
Um,
But there is a line to last ditch effort into remembrance, like an instant speed any of the turn. So it's not. You will still draw back up after that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But just in terms of like how Ice React interrupts that type of
Yeah.
turn, it's not even a question of like, oh yes, I'll
That's
put
good.
it in Arsenal
Mhm.
and play around that. No, the fact that the Ice React puts that card in deck at
Mortal
all, makes
Tear
the second last deck,
+1.
last ditch,
Mhm.
never get the
Right,
go
it's
again,
Tunic.
never
What's
get
wrong?
the +4.
4, 5, 6.
So we see the Winter's Bite come out here.
First.
Now, not that great because that
7,
makes
right?
the
'Cause he
crown
+1?
play
Oh, no, sorry,
a
it's
bit more
3 dice.
efficient because
Yep,
you already
4,
forced
5, 6.
Oldhim to pitch, and then he's like, cool, I've got his floating anyway, let me use it to crown. So Winter's Bite definitely doesn't feel very great here, but it is just extra cards in Naib's deck.
1 card in hand?
Well, it's a card spent from Naib's deck
Yep.
to not actually spend a card from Hayden's deck. So when they
Yep.
checked in on each other's deck list or deck count just recently, when I think Hayden said, like, oh, I'm at like 23, Naib's like, okay, 26. Well, with
Block
cards
6,
like
sure.
Winter's Bite,
Mm-hmm.
Ice
or
React?
Yep.
what is it? Winter's Bite? Yeah.
Winter's Bite, yep.
That doesn't really line up, right? That's
Yep.
not ever going to be
Yeah,
a
that's
card
right.
that trades for a real card.
Definitely. Alright, so we saw the Remembrance being pitched next to that last ditch effort, so I wonder whether
to
we'll
one?
see that play when Naib goes
Move to my
last ditch
Arsenal.
effort
Yep.
while the deck is empty, and then Remembrance after that.
Good.
Yeah, we're also getting to the point where with Earth React as always a possibility, the deck count will definitely be, it'll get healthier as you pitch more and more into Earth. You're not really stripping that card, stripping those Earth cards
Or
by
given.
demand ever. It's not like you have Pulse Wave Harpoon to just say, oh, no, no, no. We are actually getting that out of the deck. It has to be something that Hayden decides to, for whatever reason, put on the combat chain instead of pitching to Oldhim's ability.
Yep.
But the other thing coming up with how these
These are
cards are
migrated.
pitched, I believe every other card in that hand is a 2-block. I saw a Pummel, saw a Hypothermia. We saw the Autumn's Touch, which in this scenario is a 2-block because you're probably pitching it back in the deck.
Yep.
Let's see the last card, but that is what can happen here. So if these turns get big enough damage can leak potentially to maybe get that last ditch play going, but it's still going to need a miracle, I think. It is
So-
a lot of damage when you start counting up. Like in theory, 16 into the Endless Arrow, like if that's what you can pull off all in one turn, that's a
This
20 damage
is
turn that
for
you're setting
4?
up.
Yep.
It just
4
feels
going.
so susceptible to Ice React.
Mm-hmm. So what is so impressive from Naib here is that he is still firing arrows this deep into the pitch cycle. This is really something you can only do if you're a really, really experienced player. A lot of times you're just going to be pitching a bunch of ice blues. I mean, Lexi gets a
Block
second
4.
cycle.
Pressure.
They just have a whole bunch of non-arrows. But Naib, for how long ever this game's been going, every single turn has been forcing Hayden to block because he has
+1.
these arrows that he's preserved in his deck in the correct order. He spaced them out with the non-attacks.
Speaking of turns, we definitely have
One
stopped
turn here?
counting this a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna click
Just
it a few
reset it?
times just
Okay.
to get a better idea of where we're at. This is like, third cycle at this
Yeah.
point, right? That's the length of this game.
We've seen so many last-ditch efforts.
Everyone in the room is so antsy because they're basically waiting for us to wrap up. Naib,
Okay.
props to him, like he's doing what
Green
he's
hand?
got to do to win this
2.5.
game. He knew it was going to be a long strategy. It's not really him
Reactions?
that's making it
Nothing
this
from
long.
me.
It's Hayden's return
Nice react.
strat.
Yep.
But Naib, the patience is paying off. He's not playing any quicker than he has to.
Yep.
And
Greater Fist Dash.
there we go. Getting through some permanence there. That's Greater Fist off the table now.
That's one block less for the eventual endless arrow that we know is going to be coming.
Change to 2. Move to Arsenal.
There we go. From this overhead view, Hayden's deck is looking really healthy by comparison.
I definitely agree. That does look quite scary for Naib. Yeah, I think in the first game when Hayden wasn't expecting this sort of strategy, Naib could basically use his life total to preserve cards in deck because that's fewer cards he needs to. As in he can just take the damage,
this
and then that's a
is
card lost from Hayden's deck
For go again?
that Naib didn't need to lose any cards for. But because
Exactly.
Hayden's now prepared for the strategy, he's just not attacking. He's like, I'm not going to lose cards to let you use your life as a resource.
That's a great point because these players did
I'm at
play in
18, right?
round 1 or something.
Yeah.
One card
They
in hand.
played way early on in the day, and that's probably the change in play. You know
Block
how we
3.
mentioned, oh, we're
Reactions?
surprised
No.
Hayden. We would have thought since he lost the
Nice
first time he played against
Voltaire
Naib, he
again?
would have
Yep.
tried being aggressive this time. Maybe
+1.
that's the exact change
Mhm.
instead. He just wants to play fatigue
Ice
even
React
better, which
dissolves.
is
I'll
doing
take 2.
exactly
Or
what
sorry,
you just
I'll
said.
take
Never even spend out like a glacial or a
17.
cranial
Yes.
if you can help it. Just do nothing.
4.
Do nothing because your win con is 0 cards out of them.
Mhm.
Then you can deal your damage. It's a little boring, but it will get you there, and it's something that I did plenty today.
Yeah.
I brought in a fatigue strategy into dash. I fatigued out 2 dash, and they weren't very happy about it. But
Mhm.
it is just a way to win.
Yep, Arc Smash when you're brute into dash, absolutely brutal. So is this Naib's last hand here? No, I think that might be. I think it's
19 for
fewer.
level 3?
It's fewer
Yep.
than 5 cards
pass
left
the
in
turn.
that deck for sure.
For sure. But there's the remembrance. I want to see when he plays it. Is it after the last ditch effort just to get
Sure.
last ditch efforts back? Is it for a different strategy he's going for?
Mhm.
Someone in chat, is it annoying to have the players on? Actually, we purposely
Yeah,
turned them
activate
on because we
version.
want to hear some of the things they're talking about
Sure.
like deck counts. We
Do
can't
you
really
have a
get a
prospect
good
on me?
grasp of. So if we stop talking,
You're
their
just
mics
shining
get
us.
louder, and that's been relevant a couple times here.
So Naib just playing Arte Incarceration. I think we can probably expect Hayden to not send a big attack here. He's probably just gonna send the whale. Just don't lose any cards in deck to something that's not gonna matter. The Lexi's life total doesn't matter here. Is it Lexi's cards in deck and his own cards in deck?
Yeah, so I wonder if Naib's gonna take this like a champion. If he really gets to 0 cards in deck, will he just let the Oldhim go through every turn cycle needed to swing whale 4, okay, pass, swing whale 4, pass. Everyone's so quick to just go for the fist bump, but I had someone today playing Dash who I destroyed all their items with Arg Smash, and they still had like 30 cards left in deck, but they
Press T4.
refused to boost. So it literally took like 30
Two
something
hands?
turns.
Yes.
We were passing
swing
lightning
open.
fast, but I was like, hey, swing romping club. They block, take 1.
Mhm.
They shoot, I block. I swing, they take 1. And so I'm winning that trade, but it's by 1 damage a turn. It took forever.
So here we see exactly what we were talking about here. Hayden opting not to use any attacking card, but just opting to just pitch 6 into the Winter's Whale to pay through the Frostbites.
Now
I
that's
wonder-
getting the Blizzard out of hand, right? Which is a little interesting because Blizzard's a way to. I mean, Ice Rack probably does it alone. It gets rid of the fear of this last ditch effort play, but Blizzard's another way around that. If you Ice Rack Blizzard, LDE just does 8, and you at this point can probably just block with the other 2 cards and just be fine because their turn just turns into nothing else after that.
Sure. Take 4.
trigger.
So I wonder whether this Frostbite messes up Nime's math here at all. Now they do have Tunic up. I think it's been up like forever, so
Fast turn.
they definitely can go through it. But I wonder whether they were relying on the Tunic for perhaps something else.
Yeah, Naive is really leaning back, so we can't get his hand on camera. But it should be what, like triple? Is it triple
Triple?
last-ditch effort
think so.
remembrance? So what? Do we know the Arsenal card is the 5th?
I'm not sure.
But definitely 3 last-ditch effort and remembrance are in there. So
Yep.
in a way, the Frostbite could mess up if it's last-ditch effort, remembrance in hand exactly. You wouldn't be able to pay through all that. Normally, if there was no Frostbite, Tunic covers the cost to make that yellow-blue pay for the last-ditch. But yeah, there's no world where Hayden doesn't ice rect that anyway, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Naib doesn't seem too happy, kind of like arched back. He
Yeah.
knows this
Arched
game was
back.
played a lot better out of Hayden compared to the first time they saw the game.
Yeah.
So he's asking now, how many cards do you have in
7.
deck? Let's take a listen. 7.
4 in hand, 1 in
7
arsenal.
says Hayden.
This makes me wish we managed to catch that first game on stream. It also makes me wonder how different this would be if Hayden wasn't expecting this. You know, we probably would have seen some of those attacks come out, like Hayden naturally getting cards out of his own deck by sending attacks. But Hayden this time being very, very disciplined, saying, "I know what you're up to. I'm not sending a spinal injury."
Well, what time
We saw
take the
one
Tunic?
CNC come out, I think, but that
33.
there's very few actual attacks coming out.
Yep. The
from Hayden.
CNCs are, I mean, those are worth it at that point
Yep.
because that's also taking cards from Lexi, whether they're blocking
Yep.
from hand
2
or
cards in hand.
letting the arsenal go. Right. So that is a relevant one to play up. But
Yep.
beyond that, always stick to weapon and just block in this kind of matchup, and you probably win like 95% of the time. It's pretty unfortunate.
So critically at his end state, these last-ditch efforts do go into a graveyard.
No
Now, Hayden
blocks.
did see the remembrance,
Sure.
but we might see Hayden
no
finally
Tunic.
use his life total as a resource here because he recognizes the only card he
Face react.
really needs to block are the endless arrows. He needs to save his blocking cards for that, and so he might use his life total for these last-ditch efforts, which we do see him doing. He declared no blocks and just went ice react.
No, it's a great way to play. I mean, Naib just doesn't actually win. I know we were really hopeful, but what you just pointed out recently is something we should have mentioned even from turn 1. The fact that Hayden really spent no cards on offense other than, I believe, like 2 CNCs and then that 1 glacial turn 1.
Yep.
He didn't help hit like self-mill at all. So he's got 7 cards in deck right now. That's how razor thin the margin would be. You could see a world where he actually just plays out like even 5 more cards because he's actually
That's 7 cards there?
attacking with like a cranial here, attacking
that-
with a glacial here,
I
whatever it
believe
is.
so.
And then that means his deck
Yes.
would be down to even just like potentially 2 cards right here. Naib
Yep.
would be way lower, but that would have been using his life to eat cards from deck. And maybe that's how that first game went that they played to make Naib feel so confident in actually beating this fatigue strat. But when you play the fatigue to truly only fatigue, don't even swing, that's going to ask for like a whole other play set of cards that Naib just doesn't have a decklist room for.
Yeah. Very critically, Hayden recognizing that the life total is a resource on Naib and not
Any
letting
reactions
him
from you?
use it. In this game of fatigue, you're trying to strip your opponent of
Okay.
all their resources, and you just don't let Naib use even his life as a resource. Can we pull up last ditch
One in
effort?
hand?
We did clarify that
Oh yeah, I
it
haven't
is
used that.
it is on play, which means Ice React doesn't deny the buff
Doesn't
from it.
deny
Right?
the first one.
Yep.
No, that's what I was checking. Doesn't deny the first one, but yeah, obviously the second one can't check at that point. There is a card in deck, so you don't really get that 16 damage turn ever. That's never going to come up. There's no way to, yes, I'll Voltaire, load in that last ditch effort. Doesn't work like that. It's not an arrow.
So we finally see the Remembrance come out. I believe there's only one card in Naib's deck. Yes, that was what was Ice Reactor, which means this hand he's going to draw will leave one card behind in the deck. So, any last ditch efforts he draws will not be live.
You know, there actually is one line around that. So let's say you've got your last ditch effort in Arsenal. You're playing out that first last ditch. You pitch a blue. You have another blue in hand. They try to ice rack you. You activate Voltaire, pitch that card, then use Tunic plus the 2 floating. Play that second last ditch effort out of Arsenal. That is one way around it, but
Yep. Remember, you don't
That's
need
grasping.
to load the arrow for Voltaire. You
Exactly.
can just pitch to it. It's similar to Dash's pistols. You can, even if there's a steam count on it, you can just keep pitching into it. You won't get additional steam counters, but it does let you play around things like that.
hopefully that doesn't like
Ice.
lead us into a new.
We'll tear once.
All right,
choose
test. I think we're
again.
back.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll tear.
Yep, I believe we're
button.
back. All right, yeah, stream fatigue, legitimately. Like the entire
Still
system
in
just
reactions.
crashed.
I'm gonna blizzard it.
Yeah.
It was getting, it had enough of this game. I'm like, no, I don't even want to
Yeah.
capture like turn
There you go.
30
I'll
or
take
whatever we're on at this point.
16.
Stream
Oh,
crash under the weight of
no.
Knives frustration.
The
Yeah.
blizzard actually became relevant. That was such an interesting sequence. What
Maybe.
happened there? Knife went last ditch
one.
effort. Oldhim blocked 6 on it, and then when Ice
Move
reacted,
touch now.
Knife reacted by activating Voltaire twice, loading 2 endless arrows in, while Oldhim just had 2 cards remaining in hand. So one of those would have
Hey,
hit,
go again.
but then Hayden blizzard
cards in hand?
last ditch
Nope.
effort that was still on the combat chain. So now he's back to 4 cards to be able to block this endless arrows, and critically, these endless arrows don't have the Voltaire buffs anymore. There's no go again, so you
Oh,
might see the Purge
no.
Grapplers being popped here, because those are face up.
Block 4.
Well, you have
So,
to pay
take
for
4?
Purge Grapplers. Then.
Yes.
He doesn't have any
14.
cards in hand
Oh,
to
sorry,
do it,
12.
actually.
Wait, is that a
Oh.
face up last ditch effort?
What do you mean face up?
In the deck. I guess he just
No,
put
No,
it
no,
there 'cause
he pitched it, so he's just putting it
Yeah.
right
got
back.
it, got it, got it.
But it's unplayable now. There's not another blue.
Seems
There
good.
will not
Yep.
be another blue to actually play that last ditch effort.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was the Earth React to stop the
Change it
endless
to?
arrow on hit. And
Pass it back.
this looks to be a game. Knife just has last ditch effort.
Endless
in
arrow
hand,
before?
and
Look
the
at
endless
that. There's
arrow after.
actually 0 cards. Look at how close it actually was.
Block
There's
2.
actually
Earth
0
React.
cards in Oldhim's deck. So there was a world where, because of the -1 on Rampart,
Hold it. Pass.
there was this way
Yeah.
to get those cards out of deck and then just loop endless, because it in a way would have become the weapon.
Yep.
There would be no way for Hayden to just
Take
say
one. Take it.
Earth React, Crown, Rampart, Earth React, Crown, Rampart, and never fatigue out because of the -1
Pass.
on Rampart.
Yep.
It was remarkably close.
I think
Remarkably
this.
close.
Yep. I think this really comes down to Hayden adapting. I think if he had used 3 or 4 cards on offense, which is likely what
Four.
he did in the first
Take
round
4.
when they played, Knife just takes this. That NSR would have hit, and Hayden would have had
Four.
no cards in
Take
deck.
4.
Look what I said. I
Yep.
was like, I wonder if Naive will just handshake it or actually play it through. Look at that.
Four.
He's making. Look at that.
Oh,
He's blocking 4. Well freaking done, my friend.
Yep. I mean, you deserve it after
Hold
such a
on.
grueling
Look
game.
at
Just
how
play it out.
close.
4.
4.
Block 1.
Take
Take
3.
3.
Take
Take
3,
one, take
and that's good game.
And that's game. Wow, remarkably close in the end. Oldhim down to
Actually.
just
After
3
round 1
cards.
so
If Hayden had spent more cards, had
Yeah.
just given the
respect for
opportunity for
having the
Naive to
fatigue
say,
plan, though.
yes, yes, yes,
Gonna
I'll
get a lot
take
of
it.
people
You know,
that-
Yep.
throw that glacial at me. Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes. Let's do it, because that's 1 card less in deck.
Alright,
Actually
Nate,
ended up
before we
being
head up to the stage,
almost there, in a way. In a way.
I mean, huge
This is
props
so
to Knife.
cringe. Just so cans. Nah, man. Give Naive the spotlight. Like,
Yep.
he played that whole game. He's the one who's in the hot
But
seat
do
that
you know
whole
if there's
game.
any Advil or
He
Tylenol I
gets
can
the
get my
prerogative
hands
to
on
end the game how he
nearby?
wants, and I mean, he had
Yep.
enough life.
I have
Oldhim's
some in my bag
got to
if
finish
anyone
it. It's
wants.
on camera, so maybe in a way he wants to put on a show in that
Double dose
regard.
Tylenol or a single dose of Advil.
Can I get
Your
the
preference?
double Tylenol, please? Thank you.
Hayden asking for Tylenol. I get it.
I do have one.
Alright,
Oh
should
my
we pull up the
gosh.
bracket to see what our finals looking like?
Sure. So the finals here. Wait, actually, who was the 5 player that won?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I really like the plan.
Okay. Let's find out which Phi won. But it's Oldhim versus Phi in the finals. In the meantime, thanks for sticking around on this. That was insanely long. Not James, so it was Dylan. Wow, I was actually really hoping for a very lightning quick fast top 8 so that we could pack up, we could go back to the
Yes.
hotel, I could relax a bit. I do still have to edit the next video for LSS for that ProQuest Gauntlet
Oh
series, so
my
I still
God.
have to do that tonight.
Mhm.
Have to pack all this up, have to drive home at like 4 a.m. tomorrow. It's still kind of a nut schedule for me. But whatever, we're going to wrap it up here.
Yep.
and
I forgot
do
what time
one
my
more
flight is
giveaway.
back. I know it's like 6 a.m. or something. It's
It's 6
also
a.m.?
it's pretty early. I actually forgot tomorrow was a holiday, so I thought we need to go back into work tomorrow. So
Oh,
I booked like
yes.
a really morning, a really early morning Monday flight,
Oh, goodness.
and
Wait,
someone
which
told me it's a
hotel?
holiday. I'm like, all right.
Which hotel? Or not which hotel, which airport are you flying out of?
EWR
Oh, okay.
Newark.
So, because I'm dropping off Alex
at
tomorrow.
LGA, right?
Yeah, but that's LGA.
Yeah, it's
Which
fine.
is like an
The-
hour into the city. I don't
Yeah,
wanna do
Newark is so much closer,
that. Oh well.
so I can just make my own way there.
All right, this is going to be the last giveaway for the day because as soon as the finals is over, we have to pack up and go. But check this out. This is another giveaway brought to you by SCGCon. This is the Coax of Commotion playmat. So Coax of Commotion, I guess. Is
That
tape?
was not the finals
It's
chat. That was just the semis.
No, that was top 4. That was top 4. So finals will be starting here in a second. Here we go, Coax Commotion playmat. So we actually have this as the last giveaway of the weekend here, brought to you by SCGCon. They donated it. So, handle whatever. What? Oh, yeah. Open it up on YouTube. Type your name in. Okay, so let's figure out a giveaway for that. Smoke. Oops, wrong button. Caster right. All right. So really, please forgive the fatigue coming from the two of us. It's worse on my end because I played my heart out today trying to make it into top 8 and ended up bubbling at 11th. Which I'm going to mention over and over again, not out of spite, but because there's probably new people tuning in and out. So just to remind everyone, like, that's where I'm at. It's also been a really long weekend. But here we go. This is going to be the last giveaway before jumping into the finals. Coax a Commotion. Let's go ahead, type Coax, all right, to enter the giveaway. Not yet. Let me set that up on this end. Sorry. Don't type it yet. Don't type it yet. When I say go in like 3 seconds, keyword typed in. Okay, the word is coax. You may type it in now. You may type it in now. So please type in coax, and there you go. You can enter the giveaway for this playmat. So the deal with this is, in the US, I'll cover shipping. It's only going to be like $4 or $5, no biggie. So I'll ship it to you if you win and you're in the US. If you're anywhere else, shipping is insanely expensive. And remember, I did this whole stream for free. So I'm not going to pay to ship it to you. Please, if you know someone else in the US, or if you do want to pay shipping yourself, we can work it out that way. But if you know someone in the US that I can ship it to instead, and they can handle it to get it in your hands, all the better. But type Coax in the chat right now. Type Coax for this playmat, and we'll jump into the finals. Are they set up, or what's happening?
So Hayden's taking a bit of a break after that match. I think he did take that Tylenol, and he's using the restroom right now. But the players know that we are ready to start whenever, so it is on them. And I think Hayden definitely deserves a break after that one.
He does, but we all deserve the break, don't we? But we can't get a break until it's all over. There was actually, when you watch this back, there was a turn where the last card in hand was a red. You could have exposed, but you just have to guess at that point. Like, there's no read.
We're just chatting with Naib for a bit, chat. Wait, can they hear me? Because I can't hear me. Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Say something?
Cool.
Yes,
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, they do hear you.
Okay.
What do you mean? You don't hear yourself?
I don't hear myself or you anymore. I don't know what changed.
Ay.
I think it should be fine. The hall is so quiet now. I'm sure I can just hear you through, through these.
Keep typing in Coax. I mean, hey, the whole thing crashed just like 5 minutes ago, so I really think the computer needs a break. My phone needs a break. My phone's the one broadcasting the internet to us. Like, everyone just needs a break. Goddamn. But for right now, let's Coax a Commotion. Woo! Type it in the chat. Let's pull that giveaway winner right. Not now. In a second, I see a lot more coaxes coming through. Let's let the chat catch up here. Coax.
So we do see Hayden making his way back to the table. So we should be ready to start sometime soon.
All right, let's draw this winner as soon as he sits down. So he's making his way to the table now. I really want us to just jump into this game. I'm sure he knows the game plan against 5 really well. Hopefully they just play a really quick one. But here we go. I just heard him pull the chair, so we're going to draw the winner now. No way. No freaking way. James White. It's not the real James White. It can't be the real James White. But James White has won the giveaway.
I was bamboozled.
So James White is coaxing a commotion by cosplaying as the game creator here. So let me know where you're at. Message me on Discord. We can work out getting this playmat to you, all right? But thanks for sticking around, everybody. We're jumping into the finals. Right now, everyone is so eager to go. So truly, as soon as they're done, the stream's over. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get that out of the way now, because really it's going to be like game wrap up. We handshake the winner, and that's it. Okay?
Yep, not much time for an interview.
Not much else. So let's jump into the game right now. I hope they started.
Yes. Oldhim and Phi probably going to be a lot faster than what we just saw. Because Phi doesn't really have the avenue to try and fatigue an Oldhim, I don't think.
No. All right, and let's see. Let's show off one more time here. Oops. Here's the bracket, just as we've moved on up. It's Hayden versus Dylan. the top 8 bracket a lot more varied than it was yesterday. A lot of heroes represented. We saw Naib put on a show on this Lexi. Where was that yesterday? Gosh, that was such a cool deck. Unfortunately, taken out there in the top 4. So 5 versus Oldhim, more of a tried and true matchup. We're very aware of this one in the metagame. I'm sure Hayden probably feels pretty good about it. Some 5s, though, have a very I won't call it like easy to execute game plan in Oldhim, but they have their game plan. Like they're ready to do it, right? So let's see who pulls it off here as we move into the match.
And yet another Oldhim in the finals, Ethan. We saw
honestly,
2 Oldims yesterday in the
I
finals.
couldn't
Saw
tell
the
you
mirror
right now.
match, and we see
My head
another
really
Oldhim
hurts.
here.
That's fair,
We
bud.
believe Oldims
I
have
will
been doing
ask
well
less
all around the
questions.
world, which is a little surprising. I think a lot of people
I
had
hope it'll be
counted Oldhim
entertaining for
out
you to
coming
play,
to his
but-
meta, saying that it probably wasn't very strong
Maybe
with
the
all the
talk.
ice
I
centers running around.
apologize.
But look
Oh,
at this. We've had
I don't
Oldims
mind
in
if you
finals,
talk.
like,
I'm not.
Today
good
and
at it,
yesterday.
I just have a headache.
That's fair.
Hold on. They're actually being like really loud. Let me turn that down. I really need to get someone who knows more about like audio mixing to help me out with this because OBS alone is like
Top 8.
probably
Ice
not
Thunder
a strong
and then
enough
Mirror.
program to
Nice.
get the
Please,
audio to
Bravo,
sound.
and,
You
obviously
are
that's
doing
just
great,
fair.
Ethan. Chad, can we all talk about how great Ethan's doing?
Okay, please.
Everyone, give
stop.
Ethan a shout out here.
I
He deserves it.
I need to
Look
get
at this man.
bullied right
Okay, you
now.
guys can't see him, but I can see the exhaustion. in
Oh,
his
yeah.
I
eyes.
need to get bullied.
Let's give him some energy.
Can everyone in chat tell me to never play Levi again? Can you all tell me that?
I don't know how
Bully
you
me
did
a
it.
little bit. I need to learn my lesson.
My brain would have died.
Oh, you don't even have chat pulled up. Right?
No, well, I do. It's in the other window. We'll get there in a second. I need to
Right.
write the
Tried to do
fives.
Phi things. He'll try to
Who's this guy?
fatigue
What's
me.
his name?
I'll cry at one point.
Which
Oh,
five is this?
wait, this is
it
Dylan.
Dylan Ray?
Dylan. I forgot the last name.
All right, he was second seed.
Yep.
Dylan.
I've hit it again. So Dylan is the
Ashcraft.
highest seed here. You will be deciding whether you get to go first or second. Look, chat is propping you up, Ethan. Everyone's like cheering you on,
Levi.
and they don't want you to let go of Levi.
Did you play?
No, guys, you don't understand.
0.
I bubbled at 11th, playing my heart out on Levia. I can't help this, man. I can't help when I die to Blood Debt. It happens every event. In this freaking event, it just happened in the wrong round, so I bubble. Like, the mental anguish of that is so self-destructive. Like, I can't keep doing this to myself. I know I take the loss to Blood Debt in a 7-round tournament. Like, I get it. I know it happens. I've made my peace with it. What I can't stand is when it's as early as round 2. And then it's like, okay, well, I will never make top 8 now. Like, I have a terrible tiebreaker. I could have had the Blood Debt loss in like round 7 and felt fine, but I just can't control when it comes. It's a low variance type deal.
Mhm.
Oh well. Oh well.
Looks like the players are just about done shuffling up. They have done their pile shuffle. They've got the equipment ready. Strap yourselves in, everyone. It's gonna be the last one, and this is gonna be quicker at least.
Listen, I play.
Yeah, hopefully they
people who play aggro expect it.
knock the camera a little bit. We'll make do. I don't feel like fixing it.
So I think lately Oldims have realized that the
Equipment.
slower game plan doesn't quite work into if the Fire knows what they're doing. So I expect a little more of an aggressive strategy coming up from Hayden here. Very different from how he played the Lexi matchup. I imagine it's going to be he will take damage to send back disruptive attacks
I
like
think we're supposed
spinals
to hit
and
it as well, but we
CNCs
can keep
and
her.
pummels.
Okay, cool. I very much like keeping notes. I can go back and assess.
Wow,
Come
they're
get a cut.
actually being chatty. That's different for a finals that's going this late.
Yeah, I can't hear them. Oh well.
Oh, you still can't
yeah,
hear them.
yeah,
Oh,
I can't hear them. Oh, yeah, I guess I just don't have the audio of, I
That
guess what
makes-
chat's hearing. But
That makes 0 sense. Let's click some buttons.
yeah, it might have been because of the crash just now. But it's fine. If they say something, you can catch me up on it.
And finals is Hayden on Oldhim.
All right, Dylan. Good luck. Have fun. Did you say you're going first or second? Sorry.
I'll
Nothing.
go second.
No,
Okay.
it's
That
fine.
makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do 5 things. Play Shuko.
So I'd be very interested to know what shield Oldhim brings in his matchup. I do believe there is some discourse in the Oldhim community about whether
Same to you. Tunic to 1. See you later.
Hey man. What did I do?
I will move to Arsenal, full counter with this ice card.
Yes, sir.
No, not yet. All right. Do you hear anything? Yeah, I do hear you. What? No, they still can't hear you. They can't hear you. I have to change this. Do this. Okay, now say something.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I mean, I can. You can't
Oh.
hear me. Whatever.
No, yeah, no, that's fine. But as long as chat can hear me.
Yeah, they hear you now.
Okay,
Go
sounds
for
good.
it, go.
So we had Dylan choose to go second here, opting to start the game with tempo. I think he's recognizing the pivot that a lot of Oldhims have made, that they want to play more aggressive into the strategy. So he's chosen to go second to try and combat that. However, Hayden put a stop to those dreams by playing Channel Lake Frigid out on turn 0 and then following up with a Winter's Wail.
Wait,
So
hold up.
Okay, one.
We're dying.
I draw a card. I'm in for 5.
No.
Round 2. Okay. Block 3, take 2.
Okay, test.
hang on, chat. Did Dylan forget to start with a Phoenix Flame in his graveyard? Oh wait, no. It is right next to his hero.
Test. Yeah, everything's dying.
Okay.
This has been
3.
more than we
Oh, yeah.
bargained for. We thought this would be a short top
Yeah.
4 stream. Oh well. All right. If you can hear us all now, I think like the 4th reset
I'll
might
take
have
5.
fixed it. Maybe.
Five.
All right, let me know if I'm good to
Yeah.
speak.
Well, it depends if chat says so. I think they can hear us, but it just
That's
crashed a
okay.
second ago.
All right, chat. Let us know if you can hear the two of us.
Discard a big
I heard you
2.
liked your hand.
Ironically, I don't.
No one's saying anything. They
They
hear
s-
us.
they say we-
Okay,
we
they
hear
hear us.
you.
Okay, there we go. All right,
Okay.
go for it.
May or may not.
Cool.
Where are we in the game?
All
What
right.
turn are we on?
This is Hayden's first actual turn. So not the turn 0. This is turn 2 for Hayden. So we saw Hayden open with a Channel Lake Treasure into Winter's Wail, putting a stop to Dylan's plans of wanting to go second and starting with tempo. We saw Dylan come back with just a Phoenix Flame into an E-Strike, and then Hayden followed up with an E-Strike into a Frostfang, which got a card from Dylan. Dylan chose to soak the damage and just discard the CNC there. And very interesting equipment loadout by Hayden, notably not running Krara Seeds, not running Rampart. So you can really tell that he's opted to just go all out aggressive here.
Yep.
He wants that Crown Providence to
3.
filter into disruption. He does not want to
Turn
let him
hand.
disrupt
It's
the
reactive
disruption
bad.
at all in this matchup.
No, what a shift from how we saw him play the last game. You would have thought, like we'd mentioned even early on in that last game when we were assessing how Hayden was going to play the matchup, disruption does work against
I'll
Lexi,
take
but
it.
actually what Hayden
What did
did,
you have,
just
32?
full
Yeah.
fatigue, just worked better. That was the guaranteed win playing
Yeah,
it that
I don't
way,
like
right?
it when the
But in
Oldhim
this matchup,
is just going,
Hayden
yeah, I'll take the damage.
completely shifting. We're likely to see
Poor
much
Dodo.
more aggressive use of his hands here, just opting for
On-
hit
that's a
effects,
13,
going
I ain't
through,
getting that.
finding CNC pummels, right? Playing that way, using your armor just as good block value, not necessarily slowing down to
Block
pitch
three.
into like
Take
a
one.
ground
Take
rampart type
one.
scenario. That's
Pretty
too
one.
low value. You're turning a card into 2 block. It's good for card preservation. Doesn't matter if you can just disrupt the Fi enough to
Yeah.
slow them down through hit effects.
And it's a lot less relevant against Fi specifically because of their Phoenix Flame. Now,
One.
Fi does have the ability to always get +1 damage on every turn where they get to go wide enough. Now, even Crown Rampart can sometimes fold to
Block is
that. So
overrated.
Fi
Says the
can be
guard.
somewhat decent
6.
against fatigue if they
Super
know what
trigger.
they're
A
doing.
little scary.
Um,
So
yeah,
Hayden here
it re-
just
Yeah, it
putting
can.
1 card to block on the
I
combat
had
chain.
it.
Yep.
Ah,
The
makes a lot
cranial
of sense
crush
for
there.
you.
That means he's
I
valuing
should've
this
blocked
hand
with my
to
storage
actually
mana.
play out a channel. Is
No.
looking like what he's trying to keep here. Actually playing out a channel. It could be backed up by Winter's Wail. Normally you buy that time, right? Like you play a channel, you swing the
Don't like
Winter's
that at
Wail,
all.
and who cares about resetting that arsenal there? Because you hopefully
Go to
just
20.
bought room
Ah, man.
off the channel
It's
itself.
only
So
it's only a
that's likely how this 3-card hand's going to get used.
24.
Sometimes though, because of the prevalence of
All
belittle
right.
in these Fi decks,
Phoenix
I
Flame
mean
right
a
back
channel.
where it belongs.
If you just run right through that tax with your minnowisms, what did it really do? Well, in this situation, it means he took an
I
extra
don't know if it
3,
matters for him or not.
trying to keep
Take
that
the
type
3.
of
I
hand.
think it actually.
And in a way, maybe he took an extra
Oh,
6 because he
6.
could have just said, "Never mind, I'll block 2, just swing a Winter's Wail," because that
Yeah,
kind
like
of
that.
value tends to
No,
be pretty good.
it's so good.
4 with
But
ice. I
nope,
don't know if
he's
it was
hoping,
worth
he's
taking
hoping
like
that it works out here.
76 damage.
Yep,
We'll see.
and just to point out, that Lava Burst actually came in for 6, not 9. Can be a little confusing the way Dylan positioned and marked it there.
Hmm.
So we see exactly what you're talking
to
about.
keep it.
Hayden took all the damage to try and set up his Channel Lake Frigid into the Winter's Whale. Let's see how much it manages to stop the fight, and critically, let's see whether Hayden can actually use this to pivot, because if he doesn't follow up this tempo that he's bought with his life with something more disruptive like a Spinal
Trigger.
or a CNC Pummel, then he took all that damage for not a lot of value.
Wow, they're playing this game
End
so
of my
much
turn.
faster. Look at that. We're only on,
Okay.
what is this, turn 2 or 3?
Yep.
It must be turn
Turn
3 because
three.
of Tunic, right?
Yes.
So we're at turn 3 here. Players almost
Oh,
at
no.
half-life each. Now, Dylan does have that Belittle in hand, so it's why he's more ready to say,
I'm gonna
yes,
play
of course,
pay
I'll
2
take this.
mana for this.
So that the Belittle, oh, so
supposedly
it's
0 for
actually,
4 attack.
he's holding the Belittle. He didn't have the blue, I believe, to really
Yes.
get that started. So instead,
card
pitching
hand?
2 reds
One
just
hand.
for 4. Not great at all.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 cards for 4 damage, not what you want to do, but he's prioritizing not throwing cards away that are so high value. That would have been blocking with 2
Okay.
very decent
Take one.
reds,
Yep. 23.
and he never got that opportunity in that kind of situation because of the channel to just say, all right, well, if I am blocking with good reds, I can at least 1 card for you with a Blaze Headlong alone, which tends to be a pretty decent rate. Channel did stump that, so yeah, the shift
I
in
would've
value
fun
on that
thing,
turn
alright.
for sure.
Definitely.
Is that 2 ice cards?
So critically, that Belittle would have cost
I thought
Dylan
we were
an
having a
entire
great
3
time.
resources
having a
because
great
of the
time.
Frostbite on top of a Channel Lake Frigid,
Respectable
on top of
answer.
Belittle costing 1. So Dylan definitely didn't have the resources for that. And here we spoke about this, like
Yeah,
whether
I'll take the
Hayden
damn
can
Frostbite
actually
Trigger.
keep up the tempo that he bought using his life. And it looks like there are
I'm gonna
2
be very
ice
strong.
cards in the
I got my
pitch
2
zone,
float
so this
gunners.
Channel Lake Frigid will stay around. So that's really, really good for Hayden. He did not find an attack like a Spinal Crush, but he did find a way to keep this channel around for a second turn. Now, Chat, can you hear the terribly
Oh my
loud background
God.
noise behind us?
There is a guy in a forklift just like doing wheelies around the convention center. This is
this
so
must be-
loud.
Yeah,
What on earth? Oh, I feel bad for the
None
players
further.
more than anything. This is like,
yeah.
if you hear this, it is like screeching.
Search is fine.
Okay, well, terrifying.
Yep.
Anyway,
I don't know why you would think.
at least they're playing faster, right? At least this isn't when the Lexi Oldhim
Well, I forgot.
Yeah.
finals comes in.
Okay, at least that
Yeah,
wheeling
that's the
has
point.
stopped. And here we see exactly what you talked about previously, the
Brains
Belittle
and
True
soupy
try
right
and
now.
combat this Channel Lake Frigid. This time Dylan did have the blue to fully pay through the Frostbite and the Channel Lake Frigid
Coming
tags.
for you.
And now he just fished out another blue, and that is really
I
the
will
strength
take
of the
three.
little, and why Fight
20.
does have the
Yep.
ability to combat these ice decks like Oldhim
Oh, you're
and
playing
Icelander,
Frown and
because
not
Belittle
Crown.
fits
Oh yeah.
right
That's interesting,
into
actually. I wanna have
Fi's
that
deck
later.
naturally. Fi doesn't need to put subpar cards that they
uh,
don't want to put. It just fits right
we've
into
had
all
some
the head
supporters,
jab
we've
like
had
cards
some
that they
people,
already love to play.
Definitely flaming us
Sure.
for choosing not to play Crown of
Now,
Seas, but
this time, right, leading through
think it's
the
interesting.
little searching the minnowism.
Uh,
What's the minnowism actually going to go to
Definitely
stay
don't
in
think
for?
it's bad.
Definitely channel tags across like a wide enough
CNC?
chain. It's just going to end up
CNC.
slowing down a bit. It's
Makes
a
that CNC a
blue
lot
into
better.
CNC.
Ethan,
That's
you know what this reminds me of?
what's up.
Yesterday, Blake's game against that Oldhim, when the
Oh,
Oldhim
that's
did
right.
not bring Crown of Seeds and brought Crown of Providence instead. We saw how effective those CNCs were.
That's true. That's true. In this situation, the Crown of Providence is
Literally
still
just
on the
like
board.
knocking
He
it
hasn't
out.
used it early.
just thinking
So
about the rest
using
of
it
my
here,
blocks
good
here.
value, right?
Maybe
There's
you
not a
can have it.
pummel coming out of a Phi type deck. So as long as you're shoring it up to cover the CNC hit effect, even
Block
if it's
5,
a
trigger.
little inefficient, right? Like look at that. I'm gonna block 5. It's not a full cover, but leaking 1 through doesn't threaten
Yeah.
Arsenal. We'll just go ahead and
Thank you.
cycle. And I think he just cycled into a
Brings you to 3 in
pummel.
hand.
That is quite a relevant card to flop in
4
Arsenal.
because of the sync.
Yeah. Duh. Arsenal.
That would be such a sight to see, a pummel out of a fight. I would love to see something like that.
Go Hayden. Everyone rooting for Hayden in the chat, supposedly. Well, I don't really know either of these players personally.
That's
So
so
good luck to either of
good.
them.
I
No
agree.
preference from my end. Fine Oldhim, both met a staple, so
That's
it
so
would be
funny.
more.
Like, you made
Wouldn't
it
be that
one line,
surprising
I
either
can't
way if
put much
one of
more
them
thought
takes it.
into
They're
than
both
that.
tried and tested
No,
decks
it's okay.
at this point, right? Now they're having a good laugh
Oh.
over the fact that the disruption just
exact thing has happened
doesn't
to me
end,
6
right? Like
times
look at
this
this,
weekend.
a CNC coming
Like,
through off the back of
Arsenal's
2
card, who
turns of the
doesn't have
channel
the
already.
CNC?
Now, is
Oh,
it
CNC. They
pummel?
always have
Because
the
there's a
CNC.
tunic up, and from what we know
God,
about
do
the
I
hand,
get it? I have a 16.
is
I have a 16.
Dylan. You always have to expect it because even if tunic wasn't up, there's 2 cards in hand,
Brian, I know
and
you can't
Hayden
answer, but I'm gonna
pitched
ask you
a
for comedic
pummel.
effect. Do I
So
take
when
this
that
serious?
comes up, I mean, you basically know it's happening, right? You pitched a pummel. You never do
What's my
that
turn look like?
if you're playing out a CNC. Like you, that's that's the card you're trying to couple with it. So this is just screams second pummel in hand, and it's lining up really well with tunic. Super efficient way to play it. Even setting up
I hope they
sync
can
below
hear
an
me so I
Arsenal,
either
just a
become
guaranteed
beloved
4
or
block
hated
out of
for
Arsenal. Really
the
strong.
crap
This
that
is
I
definitely very telegraphed, and Fi unfortunately
Man, the
does
thing is,
not
like,
have
I
the
don't
out
have
of Crown of
3
Providence like what
blocks.
we saw Hayden do the
Yeah.
previous turn when he was faced with
It's pretty good.
CNC.
It's
By opting to go for the Mask of the Pouncing Links. Now, this card does
Give me
represent
two
5
cards.
to 6
I
damage just
could
sitting on the
just go
board
for the
here.
cards.
So we won't see it come into
Um,
see the headpiece come into play now, but you know we can expect that to do
I could also
really mean things later
do
on if the
this.
Fi doesn't get disrupted too
play
much,
the
and
card?
that is what Hayden needs to keep doing. He's been
How
doing a really
wrong is
good
it?
job of it
Oh,
so
now
far.
it costs 2.
He
You
needs
still
to
have to
keep up
channel
this
for
pressure because Oldhim is quite
Take this.
liable to
Uh,
sometimes just
I have a
bricking and
reaction.
just getting raw
Oh, wait,
damage
huh?
hands like glacial.
Yeah, you're getting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
too.
But when you can
Maybe a
start
top.
landing
Yup.
damage like this is 10 damage coming through.
That
A
you.
discard, the arsenal destruction, all that kind of
makes
stuff coming through.
sense. Sorry,
Oh,
I was
you
at
tapped the
-19.
wrong side there. Oh, there we go. When you can accelerate the game
I was
like
like, wait,
this,
but that's only
throw this
-7.
much disruption backed by the back
want to go
note,
to 12.
the damage it
It would
dealt
make
as
my
well.
life so much.
Well, those 3-card glacials, yeah,
But,
there's
like,
no hit
not-
effect
This is
tied
why
to
we
them,
have
but
the
the
paper
damage
system.
rate starts to be super relevant for an Oldhim to be able to get the card into a must-block state.
We're back to on-hit die.
Yeah, or almost right there.
Wow, this
Almost
hand
right there. I mean, if you get to the
What
point
is
where
that
a
other word?
Winter's Wail alone is what's threatening lethal, Oldhim loves that state because that's so low effort on Oldhim's part. I'm just always going to try to block 3, turn that 1 card, Winter's
Yeah.
Wail.
It'd be very
If
impressive
you're
if I
you know,
managed.
It would
below
be very
4,
impressive. I'll just-
or rather, if you're at 4 or below, then you must
Pass
interact
turn.
every
This is
single
dying.
time.
I am arsenaling.
You meet the player at 4 voices.
And you are good to go.
Absolutely, and
We'll turn it off.
so that was an Art of War lost from Fi's Arsenal and a Flame Call Awakening lost from Fi's hand. Now this will really, really nullify Fi's turn here. Now looking at the Oldhim side, Oldhim did draw that Spinal Crush. Now this is Dylan will be really sad about this when it comes back to the Oldhim side because we know just the way Hayden's been playing, he is going to, if he needs to leak some damage to send back the Spinal, he will. We saw him leak a lot of damage just to set up a channel like Frigid. He will do the same for the Spinal Crush here.
All right, so we just muted the table audio. Things have just gotten all mixed up with the system crash with how the audio is set up. On top of that, we have to be a lot quieter because there's no one else in the hall. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just mute them for consistency's sake. Plus, I don't feel like problem solving why their audio isn't ducking anymore. Whatever, things crash, we'll just move on. We'll
Yep.
move on.
And Fi being forced to start with the Flame Call Awakening did not draw another red starter, so could not go and fish out the Phoenix Flame. So we can expect to see maybe the Ember Blade come out after this.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he committed Sink Below early. It wasn't a super efficient block, right? Like that card, if it blocks 4, it feels amazing. Not always a breakpoint that comes out from the Fi deck. It's really Blaze Headlong. It's stuff that's buffed by Art of War, stuff that's buffed by Spreading Flame. So if you want to free up your arsenal to put a more disruptive piece, then yeah, you just play this out. It's not super efficient, but what it is doing is letting your arsenal buy you life, which is unique enough just as the defense reaction, as they do. Arsenals become extra block.
That's a very good point. And as a sort of punish here, actually, Dylan punishing Hayden for using the Sink too early and coming back with one of those few 0-for-4s that Fi does present, like what you said, Blaze Headlong and Snatch, and anything buffed by the cards you mentioned. And this is amazing sequencing by Dylan here. Some of you might be wondering, why didn't he swing the sword? Because if he swung the sword, he's vulnerable to getting the Snatch ice reacted away. So he's choosing to sacrifice that damage on the sword to go ahead and do the Snatch. Now, however, given how aggressive Hayden's being, like, would he have even opted to do the ice react had the sword come out? We don't know, and that's maybe a debate to be had. But that's why Dylan chose not to swing the sword. Also, the stalagmite as well would have stopped the snatch.
Yep, also that, but it could have been as well the fact that he saw the sink be played out like that, so he just wanted the immediate punish of, well, here you go, new tough choice. You had your easy block 4 available and you used it on a 3, so apart from just playing into ice react, maybe just give Hayden the immediate punish and try to throw him off that way. But here we go. This is Arouse the Ancients coming in. It's fusing here. Kind of a strange reveal as well, right? Because this is a Spinal and a Winter's, what was that one called?
Grasp.
Winter's Grasp. So it's exactly 13. It's what's needed to go ahead and make that Rouse 7 go again. And that blue ice card is going to let this follow up with Whale with the Frost effect pretty easily. Spinal and Arsenal. This spells a really great few turn cycles coming up for Hayden.
Very interesting choice by Hayden here, opting to go for more vanilla damage in the form of the Rouse rather than just playing out the Spinal for some disruption and immediately arsenaling the Rouse after that. So he's saying, Fi, you are low enough that you need to start being scared of this. I can even save this Spinal. I have done my disruption. Now you're the point where, as you were talking about, you're the point where weapons and stuff start to force you to block.
I think these players are not tapping the life. I'm pretty sure he just ate the Rouse.
I'm pretty sure too.
So maybe they upped at that life next time they take a glance at the phone there. But I think everyone's just ready to be a little bit done.
Yeah.
So They're forgiven. Sometimes they're tossing out the attack token, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're tapping the health, sometimes they're not. But whatever. It'll all
Yep.
culminate into a game, hopefully ending in like 10 minutes.
Yep. So it looks like Fi is at 5.
Okay, there we go. Fi's at 5. Makes sense.
Pretty sure.
There they go. Yep, they
Yeah.
just tapped it down now.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Now coming in, Brand with Cinderclaw. On the Oldhim side, as long as these things aren't lethal, the first thing the Oldhim can start to do is craft his more aggressive, his more disruptive hands, because Fi at 5 is almost at that point we're talking about where even a Winter's Wail alone is a big decision point Fi's forced to interact with. So Hayden's really close to getting that point where Oldhim just loves to live. There's also the situation coming up where a Glacial that's fused, like a 10 Glacial fused, and if you can keep those kind of hands, you just end the game right there on the spot. So I do see a Glacial right now. I mean, he's already committed the Ice React, so it was never, I guess it wasn't the right color. Maybe it's like his blue in hand or something. But those lines do come up. They do.
I love this Ice Strike from Hayden here because the way Fi works is that the 4th card from Fi represents way more than 3 damage. So Hayden, instead of using 1 card to block on the combat chain, on the Brand with Cinderclaw, opting to use 1 card to Ice React, which in the long run, if that stops like the Lava Burst as a chain ender, that's saving him 5 life rather than just 3 by putting a card on the combat chain to block. This is just showing his amazing knowledge of this matchup and what his role is.
Yep. I mean, Guardians, when they draw these disruptive cards, 1 red, 3 blue, 1 red, 3 blue into pummel CNC, it's very hard for most decks to play into that, let alone one of the decks that they're trying to target with that kind of deck building strategy, like Fi. Fi, it's very hard to start respecting those turns and turn to a more pivot, a block-based strategy rather, because there's so many 2 blocks in the deck. So Hayden, really, he knows his role, just like you said. This is a commitment of, all right, you know what? Equipment lets me pivot pretty easily. Even a Tunic used this early. I mean, goodness, we're only on, I believe we were going into like turn 6 there. That is one resource milked out of Tunic. So different from how he was using it last game, but he knows his role. He's keeping that 3-card hand. If he can turn this into, it won't come through with like a Dominate here, but he's still going to turn this 3-card hand into maybe like 8 or 10. Or no, he's got the Spinal, right? So that's the play he's going for in Arsenal.
Amazing value from this Stalagmite that not only did it stop the Phoenix Flame that Fi brought back, it stops the potential of a Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Now that piece of equipment has just been sitting there. Dylan is itching to use it, but the Stalag just kept stopping him, and he was not able to use it there. And in this sort of situation, he might be forced to block with it, which is so much less value that you get out of the headpiece than what you actually want with it.
Right. When you use that aggressively, it's likely 7, 8 damage. That's kind of the sweet spot. If you use it for 6, I mean that's pretty much like a low roll, as most 5 players would consider. If they're holding this for like the Shuko buff on their turn, like backed by Spreading or Art of War, they're normally getting like 7 to 8 out of it, which is incredible. They're sacking a piece of equipment for 8 damage. That's better than Husk. And they're not playing with Blood Debt or anything. Like, there's no downside. Just, we're going to use this for 8 damage. But when you're this far on the back foot, you do need your larger hands to milk that kind of value out of links. And when Hayden represents hit effect, disruption, those hands just don't come together, and you're likely forced to use it for just 2 life. Drastically different value than if you'd played it aggressively.
And here we see Dylan trying really hard to figure out if this hand works without him committing that Mask of the Pouncing Lynx on the blockchain. On the blockchain, on the combat chain as a block. So let's see if he manages to do it, because if he's not blocking with it here, we do expect him to, use it on his own turn.
For sure. Yeah,
It
using
looks like
oh nope, never mind. That's just
Not the
completely out of the
same.
question there. Let's go ahead and throw 3 cards in front of it. Were they all 3 blocks? Looks like at least 2 of them were CNC Soul Beat, so he didn't tap down the life.
Yep.
So he's either at 5 or if he missed it 4. Oh no.
This was what he put in Arsenal the previous turn when the Frostbite stopped the Phoenix Run from actually being able to be played. So this is just a starter here. Maybe we'll see a Blaze Headlong come after this.
Oh, but that was something he drew in the last, because that's not his starter Phoenix Flame. He's already got that. So this was something he just drew up naturally anyway, right?
No, this was put in Arsenal the previous turn because the Frostbite stopped it from.
That's right.
Yep. So this is a starter for what? Oh, just to replace the Arsenal. Okay.
Oh wow.
So he's taking a bit of a gamble there. He's saying, all right, you've been throwing disruption at me every turn of this game. Can you keep doing it? Because if you can't, like he's waiting for Oldhim to have an off turn, which is very possible. They do run lots of vanilla damage, like what we see right here. However, 2 cards remaining in the Oldhim's hand, you have to be scared of a pummel. Now, I
You
think
have to
Dylan
be.
might just opt to say, all right, if you have it, you have it, but if you don't, this is my opening.
Well, if you don't, he still has to make decisions somewhere on this turn. You can't just say take it. I'm pretty sure that's a blue. I don't think we saw red Thunderquakes come up in that last game out of Hayden, but it is a card that some Oldhims are running. So it could be a red Thunderquake, could be a blue. I guess we'll see as soon as they tick down the health. I wish they'd use those attack tokens. That's kind of like the whole point to help us out, but
Definitely.
it's all right.
So Dylan could potentially just put one card in front of this and the Flamescale Furnace, so going down to one and preserving the Mascot of Pouncing Lynx. That does look like the block he's trying to line up. Let's see whether Hayden has the pummel to just close the game out right here, or whether Fi will be given maybe a turn to claw some tempo back, especially with that Mascot of Pouncing Lynx just sitting there, just baiting Dylan to use it.
Right. Well, with Oldhim at 13, there is a world where if he's able to survive this kind of thing, if that's a blue Thunderquake and he just blocks like this, 4 goes down to 1,
Yep.
and you don't want to do that,
Yep.
but you'd at least have 3 cards in hand, Arsenal, Mask up. Presenting 13 is really easy, so you'd be able to get some interaction out of the Oldhim, but that's not going to be the route he opts for. He goes a little bit safer here.
Yep,
He's
opting
able
to
to
play
pummel.
around the blue pummel, but not any other color here.
There we go. So it was a red. So it was a red.
Oh, it was a
Thunderquake.
red. I see. I
Okay.
see.
Yep. So he had to do that.
Right.
There we go.
So now 13 damage without links. Possibly a lot harder, but at this point, Hayden is fine blocking. Hayden, like, this is exactly what he talked about. Hayden is totally fine just using 3 cards to block, maybe even a D-React if that's an Arsenal, and then just swing the hammer, which now will always demand 2 cards from the Fi. Unless there's the sync below, which Fis sometimes do run in this matchup, but most of the time it's going to be 2 cards from the Fi.
Now, if we take a look at just how simple the board itself looks, we've got Hayden has just taken his equipment pieces off the field now that they're broken. Dylan has flipped him over, but we're looking at literally just snaps left on board as far as equipment goes, and we're only into turn 6 here. So that just speaks to how aggressive, how fast they're trying to close these games out. And Dylan, this is really his last push. He's been trying to play aggressive, I mean, so that one mode Fi has. The disruption has slowed him down, and this is really his last avenue to say, well, I kept a large enough hand because I, only needed to block 1 in hand to not die. Well, he's getting into that position where a 1-card block to survive is just never possible. He's at 1. 1 is the danger zone, especially because Winter's Wail comes in at a natural breakpoint of 4. Unless he's running sinks, then, I mean, that's 2 cards. That's 2 cards. And Fi, if he cycles out Arsenal here, presenting 2-card hands forever, that's only 7 damage. He'll never win that game. No.
So this is a bit of an unfortunate start for Dylan here, where he had to pitch a red for this belittle, but he is following up with his Art of War. Remember, he cycled out a Phoenix Flame Arsenal to put his Art of War in there.
Yep.
So, he's really hoping his Art of War gives him some good draws. He's hoping not to draw those blues at this point because he already has the 2 floating. But he definitely wishes that he could have started his turn with the blue, because then he could have played for the belittle and Art of War off of that card and just kept his Mounting Anger in his hand.
Now, if we look at Hayden, he's doing some hand shuffling. I believe I spy not only a natural dominate with the Macho Grande, also a pummel. So if lethal isn't presented, then Hayden will likely just say, yes, I'll take it, I'll take it, because he's got guaranteed game if he's able to keep that 4-card hand by just pitching the 3 blues for Macho, or if he, I don't remember what he has in Arsenal, but if he wants to go a different route to try to pummel over whatever that attack is, he is not likely to start chucking these cards just for life, because if he can keep the 4, that's just game.
Critically, I think Hayden, even if he just blocks with one of his cards, he can still go Winter's Wail, and Fi is unlikely to overblock that to play around the pommel. At this stage of the game, you sort of need to be in the mode of, all right, if you have it, I lose. You force the Oldhim to have it, and so you might just see that, but it looks like this is just a snatch. There's snaps on the field, though. So
there's snaps. This is a blue snatch. We were just talking about how he doesn't want to draw the blues specifically because he pulled out the blue Minnowism and pitched a red to begin with. So he was already searching for more reds to replace the one he'd pitched there. He got the blue purposefully. Instead, drew into the blues off the random Art of War draws there. And there's a world here where Hayden does scale down a little bit more. He has the option to kind of just lock out of the game a different route if he wants to take a slower win. Block 3 Ice React is pretty terrifying. But he goes ahead, commits the 1 on the block. He's still keeping his options open to play for whatever attack that is out of Arsenal, potentially pummel it. But he's now giving up the opportunity to just macho for game. And it makes sense. Like, if this turn gets out of hand, it's off the back of something like this draw from. Oh no,
Those were two
that was
blues that he
two
drew.
blues in a row.
Also, very critically, none of these are draconic starters. Dylan basically didn't have a chance to recover back a Phoenix Flame here just because of these three things: Belittle, Snatch, and Soulbeat Strike. None of them say draconic on it, so Hayden knows exactly the damage is going to come out from now. It's just going to be Ember Blade, no Flame being recurred here because Dylan just won't have the resources to. Yeah, actually, the Ember Blade itself won't even have Go again because there's no Draconic Chain Links.
No, but at the end of the day, like he's I mean, at least the resources lined up in a way that the Emberblade still comes through. It would have been a little awkward as well if like a one cost came through there, then
Yep.
Emberblade doesn't swing at all. But it's not like we can pretend this was fortunate. Those were
Yeah.
blues. It was
Those
just
were.
a bunch of clunk. The Art of War only providing +3.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the blues had been reds, that's a difference of 4 damage, right? Which would have forced something else to happen. I mean, Oldhim lives here at 4. A blue to a red is 2 points of difference. If those blues had been reds, that's forced interaction coming out. Oh my goodness, what a different game. But
yeah, we see the Glacial likely is going to rip the Fire's entire hand, and then Hayden setting up the Macho Grande in Arsenal. Just he's got his path of victory,
Yep.
and he's taking it here.
Nope, it's very smart because when you throw 10 like this, I mean, it's not a great rate, right? But at the same time, Fi's at 1,
Yep.
so he's got to do something about it, and he gives his entire hand around it, which makes sense. I mean, even a 3 block, in best case, is 9. So yeah, that's 4 card block there. The Macho Grande's in hand. So with Dylan basically just saying, okay, like I draw, you go, unless it's an all red hand.
Is
Which
that
it
what he
might
just
be.
drew?
Is that
Is-
endless
I see
pummel
endless
CNC?
CNC.
That's at least 3.
I see 2
three
pummels of CNC and an endless winter. This
There's
Macho
no
Grande
way.
can't. Oh my god.
That's at least 3 reds. If that other pummel is a red, this is hilarious. I mean, it still shows. It still presents a CNC, which takes 2 cards.
Yep.
Which threatening for Dylan as well because that basically forces the 3 blocks to come out of hand, and those 3 blocks tend to be more the resource space. So if he's trying to go
Definitely.
for his best 2 card hands, normally you still need a blue. You go 3, pitch, searing, Phoenix Flame. But what he doesn't have to worry about here is most likely it being death to pummel. Seeing 2 red pummels pitched is a huge tell of like, okay, I just block 6, I get 2 cards here. But does that really win you the game? No.
Yep, but Fi didn't draw 2 3 blocks, so we do see 3 cards coming out. So Hayden definitely feeling fortunate. He would have felt
3
really
cards.
bad if he bricked that hard and Fi drew 2 3 blocks, which is quite not very regular for Fi.
All right. Well, this should be
Yeah.
game over. We haven't
Yep.
clicked the buttons. I believe it's probably leading into turn 8 or 9 here, something like that. But very accelerated game. Hayden could have closed it last hand if it was just a little bit better.
Yeah.
But he's only staring down 3 damage.
Yep.
It's that Rising Resentment coming in just for 3. No real hit effect when there's no cards in hand, and especially when it starts a chain like that.
Yep.
So he pitches 2
blues and a red.
1 red, and then Macho Grande put it on a show, flexing in front of the Fi there.
Yep.
Dylan, what are you looking at, bud? That has natural dominate.
Yeah, he has an Art of War in hand.
Oh,
but
he has an
even
Art of
so,
War. And a
even
sync.
so, it's not.
No,
Oh
no,
well,
but
yeah,
those don't combine. Those don't
yeah.
combine.
Unless the sync was in Arsenal, he could have survived it, but yep, not with this.
No, there's no way. I mean, he's got 2 Art of Wars, right? So he can pump, but even that only turns a 3 to a 5.
Yep.
You can't sink below from hand around this dominate. So I guess he's just doing this to be flashy.
Hear this out. Art of War and then block with Brothers in Arms paying into it, and also gets the Art of War buffs. Oh, that's still only up to 7 if you get all 3 Art of Wars.
There he goes. He dumps the sink, and that's it. Fist bump right after it.
Yep.
Not
Hayden,
even resolving sync. Come on. He resolves Art of War, doesn't even resolve sync. What is that? Misplay.
Yep.
But GG's to Hayden. Hayden had a lot of fans. Had a lot of fans in the chat there. People spamming for him. And he's done it. That is a ProQuest taken down by an Oldhim. It's been a lot of ice throughout this whole weekend. But congrats regardless. I mean, he played that Lexi game really well. It was a learning moment caught on stream because we know he lost that matchup in round whatever. And so he came back, fixed his play, and actually won. So, hey, like he didn't just face roll his way through this tournament. The dude learned. He played well. So GG's to Hayden. We're going to probably get him on stream just to say like a super quick hello. Super quick hello. But then we got to go. All right. Oops. Wait 1 second. The caster cameras are broken too. Everything broke when it went down. All right, let's get Let's get him back. It was Hayden Janson, or however he says it. All right, Hayden, take a seat real quick. We have to wrap this up super quick, but you had a lot of fans in the chat. Check this out. People were spamming. Look, that's my fiance. Who? You know this person, Taniek?
Yeah, it actually is my fiance. Yeah.
Well, congrats, my guy. In front of your fiance, you've taken down this ProQuest. They were there the entire time through chat. Everyone was spamming. Game, I mean, very different than that top 4 we saw. So I think you showed you know how to play both phases of Oldhim really well, whether going fatigue, whether going aggressive. Big congrats, a lot of skill on display. What's on your mind now that you have your ProQuest win in the bag?
Honestly, it's kind of surreal. The judge just said I'm going to go get the gold file. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I get that. I was just happy about the invite. I do, before we go, I have to shout out my buddy Michael Yasher. He came second in the Battle Hardened yesterday. I was told I had to say that he is the Thunderquake. Okay. So, yeah, he helped me get here.
Well, great. We really do have to wrap things up. I mean, you can hear the forklift in the background.
Yeah.
We've got to clean all this up, too. So go get your gold foil. You shouted out your buddy. Any last word you want to say to the people before we pack this all up? You've got the last word before we stop stream.
Crown of Providence is the truth, and all the Crown of Seeds lovers are kind of crazy.
The Crown of Seeds lovers, they're crazy. It did get you that game against Naib, so you can't hate it all the way. But there you go. All right, everybody. Goodbye. It's been a fun and very long weekend. Congrats, though, to SCGCon's new ProQuest winner. Post your gold foil on Twitter. Let us know what happened. But go enjoy, man.
All right.
Have a good weekend.